Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in the British Isles, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the show this week 4 exciting, talented, and skillful players of the game. On my right, seated there, is one of Britain's most popular and most original comedians. That is Paul Merton. Always lovely to have him here. And seated beside Paul is someone who's achieved so much in many areas of our national life, and not least in Just a Minute. That is Clement Freud. And seated on my left, we have another very lovable and popular comedian who's also got a reputation for being one of our most outrageous comedians, and that is Julian Clary. And seated beside him, we have a lovely actress, comedian, presenter, and she's all rolled into one, but she's lovely, and that is Liza Tarbuck. Would you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Claire Bartlett. She's going to help me run the stopwatch. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Drill Hall near the West End of London, and we have an exciting audience who've drifted in from the rain outside. Let's start the show with Paul Merton. Paul, a subject here. What my body language is telling you. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
What my body language is telling you is that I'm desperately in love with Clement Freud. I sit next to him whenever we record Just a Minute, just to see his eyes.
Clement, challenge.
Repetition of just.
Just a minute. Those are the rules, audience. Repetition of a word.
Yes.
And he did repeat it.
I did.
And Clement, you got in with the correct challenge. A point to you. There are 51 seconds still available. What my body language is telling you, starting now.
What my body language is...
Paul, challenge.
Can I just say I've just gone right off Clement?
What I often do in this show, I give bonus points for people who give us delightful comments, and that was one well-deserved. Paul, bonus point for you, but Clement was interrupted, so he gets a point for that. He keeps the subject. 50 seconds available. What my body language is telling you, starting now.
What my body language is telling you is that my affection for Paul Merton has not diminished in any way at all. Also, what my body language is telling you is that I would like a tarte tatin, which is an upside-down apple cake.
Julian Clary challenged.
Didn't you repeat tartar?
Yes, but that is one word.
Oh, well, it's foreign, isn't it?
It's a French word, which is tarte, the French pronunciation. Tarte.
Now you're talking my language.
No, Clement Freud, you have an incorrect challenge. 35 seconds still. What my body language is telling you, starting now.
With Cornish clotted cream and Austrian Trockenbeeren Auslese, which is an excellent drink to have with almost any dessert, but quite especially the sort of confection which I've described earlier, which obviously...
Paul Merton challenge.
Haven't we drifted a long way from body language?
That's right. No, I really...
Do not read my body language.
Your body language couldn't tell you a complete menu, I don't think, Clement.
I failed.
Paul, a benefit of the doubt. You have the subject. 20 seconds. What my body language is telling you, starting now.
There are people who pretend to be experts in the world of body language. For example, I'm standing here now. In fact, I'm rather sitting down.
Clement challenged.
Yeah, deviation.
He's not standing, he's sitting, yes.
That's right.
But then I corrected myself in time.
No, not in time.
So the benefit of the doubt to you, some could say he corrected himself, but Paul had the benefit, you got the benefit this time, Clement. You have the subject back. 14 seconds. What my body language is telling you, starting now.
My body language is telling me that I have the benefit of the doubt, as a consequence of which I am going on talking about what my body language is telling you.
Paul challenge.
There was a slight hesitation there.
There was a slight hesitation,
yes.
Paul. So you got it back. 5 seconds on what my body language is telling you, starting now.
My body language is telling you each and every one in this room.
Liza challenge.
There was a sort of search for words there, wasn't there? Constituting
well,
hesitation?
yes. I think he saw the whistle go up to Claire Bartlett's mouth.
I can only do one word at a time. Did you want them all together in one...
Maybe I just need...
I think there's a benefit of the doubt to Lisa. We haven't heard from her, and... Yes. And for you, I know the normal pace at which you speak, Paul, and you were teetering on hesitation there.
Teetering on hesitation? So I didn't actually hesitate, and I was teetering towards it.
Yeah, which is enough for me to give it to Lisa, and so you have the benefit of the doubt,
because
Lisa.
it's doubtful in your mind, that doesn't mean anything.
You see, I do have some friends. Lisa, you have half a second on the subject. What my body language is telling you is starting now.
If I was standing here...
So whoever is speaking in this game, when the whistle goes, gains an extra point, and it was Lisa Tarbuck. And so Lisa got 2 points. She's just behind Paul Merton with 3, Clement and Lee with 4. Julian is yet to score, but it's early days. Julian, the subject is the sails. Tell us something about the sails in just a minute, starting now.
I once slept in a sleeping bag outside Harrods for 3 nights. Nothing to do with the sails, I just fancied the night watchman. Finally, once I got inside, I found a lovely refrigerator, originally priced at £14.95,000. I bought it for 55 pence, but when it was delivered to my luxury home in North London, they couldn't get it through the doorway. So I phoned up Harrods, and I've repeated that now.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of Harrods.
And I'm afraid you went to Harrods more than once.
I knew the moment it came out of my mouth.
I know. Paul, a correct challenge. You have the sails, 36 seconds starting now.
As Francis Drake was playing bowls in Plymouth, suddenly a man came up to him and said, "The Spanish Armada are on their way." And so he scanned the horizon by placing a hand just below his eyes and saw...
Lisa challenge.
A slight deviation, I think I'd class it. A hand just below his eyes.
No.
To match the horizon. To match the horizon.
I don't think any admiral of the fleet... Any admiral of the fleet with any experience are going to see would do that, because you put the hand above in order to shade the sun and the light so that you can see what is on the horizon.
Nicholas, he was drunk.
Is that why he's playing bowls?
That's why he's playing bowls.
Right.
He should have been down on the sea, but he was playing bowls. He was a bit drunk.
Lisa, you have the subject. I enjoyed the banter. The sails is with you. 25 seconds starting now.
The sails are basically glorified stock removal that lure us into assuming that we're getting a bargain when we're probably not. Buying something that you don't really want at an...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Paul, so you lose a subject, you get it back again, you get more points, you've got 14 seconds. The sails starting now.
Every January I find myself walking up and down London's West End, looking in the shop windows and wondering what I'm going to purchase in the sales. You can get some tremendous bargains. For example, I once bought a colour television set, and I hope this pace is enough for you, and it was actually £9.95.
Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle-wen, gained the extra point. He has increased his lead at the end of that round over Clement Freud, Lisa Tarbuck and Julian Clary in that order. Lisa, take the next round, please. The subject is how to get on with your neighbours. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Risking my current neighbour's inflammation, I would say civility and assuming a helpful demeanour is the best way to get on with your neighbours. Trees seemingly
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes,
sadly.
I would call that hesitation, Julian. So you have the subject and 50 seconds available. How to get on with your neighbours, starting now.
There are a number of different ways, of course, of getting on with your neighbours. I prefer a cheese and wine evening, although it can result in people...
Clement challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
He's talking about how to get off with your neighbour.
Is that all you need? Is it cheese and wine? That's all you need.
One of your best, Clement, yes. Very shrewd remark. It certainly deserves a bonus point, but it is a way to get off with your neighbours, but it's certainly also a way to get on with your neighbours. So you can interpret whichever way you like. Julian, you get a point for an interruption, and you carry on with how to get on with your neighbours, starting now.
I've no interest in getting off with my neighbours. In fact, the last party I threw was a water and peanuts party to avoid...
Paul, challenge.
A repetition of party.
Yes, you had a
Right.
party, yes, before. It's 36 seconds available, Paul. How to get on with your neighbours starting now.
Well, of course, you must go across to see them and say, hello, I'm your new neighbour. Do come into the house. And they have a look around and you say, would you like some whiskey or some soda? Perhaps...
Julian, challenge.
2 sums.
Yes.
Yes, with 2 sums there, a whiskey or some soda. 27 seconds, back with you, Julian. How to get on with your neighbours starting now.
The film Abigail's Party is a typical example of how getting on with the neighbours can go horribly wrong. Heart attacks may ensue, there may be general marital disharmony. So I prefer water and peanuts, which is what I serve out. It's my way of getting on with my neighbours. They can bring their dogs round as well, because I'm very animal friendly, as long as they don't molt or defecate on the carpet.
Paul, challenge.
Are we talking about the dogs or the neighbours? Because it's 2 mental images I've got competing. Because that's deviation, that's not getting on with your neighbours.
We enjoyed it so much, Paul, we give you a bonus point, but Paul, Julian, you were interrupted because we assumed it was the dogs and it wouldn't matter if it was the neighbours who still...
It wouldn't matter?
It wouldn't matter in just a minute because he wasn't hesitating, repeat himself or deviating. So, 3 seconds, still with you, Julian, on this subject. Starting now.
If they do make a mess, I've got some kitchen roll.
Well, fortunes change in the show. Up until that moment, Julian Clary didn't have any points, even though he'd spoken. But in that round, he got a lot. He's now equal with Clement Freud in second place, just behind Paul Merton and just ahead of Liza Tarbuck. And Clement, your turn to begin. The subject is the perfect picnic. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I think a perfect picnic is something of an oxymoron, because for me, eating food with sand and flies and mosquitoes, lots of other extraneous animals, also people, makes no fun. I once had a perfect picnic in Dubai, and we went in a truck with tables and chairs and butlers, a kitchen.
Oh, challenge.
Hesitation, sadly, although what sort of picnic is it when you take your own kitchen? Really?
In the desert.
It's hardly one has an idea of a picnic. And anyway, he paused. So, Paul, you've gone in there. The perfect picnic starting now.
The perfect picnic is often the spontaneous picnic when you're walking down the street and suddenly a picnic breaks out. You've got some bottles of lemonade, perhaps some cheese sandwiches you might have bought at the local baker's, and you lay a little tablecloth on the grass and you say to yourself,
Clement, challenge.
There are not too many pavements that have grass on them.
You did say pavement.
Did I say pavement?
Yes, definitely. But there's some pavements have grass verges.
Yeah, exactly, they do. You're quite right, Nick. It's good chairman, very good chairman. Best chairman we've got. It's
the only chairman you've got. So,
I didn't want to point that out, but yes.
Again, one has to give the benefit of the doubt because I do think that though you don't get grass on pavements, there is possible there could have been some grass around.
Yeah.
So a benefit of the doubt, but I'll make sure I redress it later on for you, Clement. The perfect picnic, still with you, Paul. 21 seconds starting now.
Another place, perhaps, the perfect picnic.
Oh, Clement's got in already.
We've had it perhaps before.
Yes.
Oh, right, yes.
Yes, you did. And so
we haven't had an I suppose yet.
No. I'll make a note of that.
Right. We obviously have some regular fans of the show because they recognise the I suppose which comes up occasionally with Paul. Right. Clement, it's your turn. You have 18 seconds. The perfect picnic starting now.
If you walk down the coast from Yarmouth via Lowestoft to Southweld, Walberswick and Dunwich, along the beaches of that wonderful...
Paul, challenge.
We did have along the coast and along the beaches as well.
Yes, along the coast.
Repetition, yes.
Hey, long.
You can wriggle if you like, Clement, but I think Paul's got it with 8 seconds on the perfect picnic starting now.
I like to watch Clement wriggle, and that, for me, would make the perfect picnic if he was there, perhaps somewhere in the distance.
Oh, yes. Yes, perhaps. So this is going to be your bogey word for this show, is it? Suppose last time we were in the drill hall, Perhaps this time. Right. 3 seconds with you, Clement. The perfect picnic starting now.
Brown bread, egg and cress sandwiches.
So Clement Freud got the point. Speaker's whistle went, has moved forward. He's still in second place, just ahead of Julian, Clary and Liza. Tarbuck behind Paul. And Paul Merton, your turn to begin. The subject, hula dancing. I'm sure you know a lot about it, but tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
I have this budgie called Hula, and Hula loves to dance. People come from all over the world to see hula dancing.
Julian challenged.
I thought he was going to say dance twice, but he didn't.
No, he's not dancing. And you can, I know you don't play the game as often as the others, but you can repeat the words on the card, either as a phrase or individually.
I know.
So Paul, unfortunately, has a point. Well, he doesn't, unfortunately, I'm delighted he is, but 53 seconds, hula dancing, Paul, starting now.
Hula dancing, of course, very popular in Hawaii. You go to any particular Hawaiian and ask them to do a hula dance, and they will say to you, yes, of course I will.
Clement challenged.
Of course.
No, he didn't say of course before.
Yes, he did.
Some of the audience think it was. You have the benefit of the doubt. 45 seconds. Hula dancing is with you starting now.
I don't hula dance a lot anymore because of the shape of my body. This machine, ring, circle, wooden... I would give him the benefit of the doubt.
It inhibited you to having the benefit of the doubt, yes.
I didn't like
I know.
not being the outright winner.
I had to take it from the audience, that's why. So, Paul, you challenged.
Well, I think it was a bit of deviation. They were just picking words at random towards the end. Threw the dictionary at the wall and just read out what they landed on.
So, hula dancing's back with you, Paul. 35 seconds, starting now.
Hula...
Lisa, you challenge.
Hesitation,
Lisa. So, tell us something about hula dancing. And there are 32 seconds available starting now.
Usually performed by a woman in a straw skirt with floral garlands to hide her bosom and perhaps one in her hair.
Paul, challenge.
How will it hide her bosom if it's in her hair? She's a big girl. Is she a big girl, Nicholas?
What's that?
Is she a big girl? Do you know her?
So give him a point for his laugh. Lisa gets a point because she was interrupted. Hula dancing is with you, and there are 22 seconds starting now.
Elvis Presley was a big fan of hula dancing, seen often in his films, undulating hips moving towards some lovely dusky beauty in a dreadful film that required watching on a Sunday afternoon. Fabulous music, little bits of lei hanging hither and thither, which is another word for some sort of flowery string of things that goes...
So Lisa Tarbuck was speaking then as the whistle went. Gained that extra point, has moved forward. She's still in third place, but not far behind Clement Freud, who's a few points behind our leader, who is Paul Merton, and Julian Clary. Your turn to begin. The subject is respect. So you start now.
Respect was a song by Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-C-T, Find Out What It Means to Me, which has always been one of my favourites. It's also what the brothers and sisters in the street say to each other, but they say respect, missing out the final T. Margaret Thatcher was not particularly respected by the British public, as she found out in the fullness of time, and it's a basic human requirement to be respected by our peers. In 1953, Winston
Oh, poor Zoo challenge. We got a lovely history lesson there, and from Julian, but you challenge on what?
It was hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. You tell us something about respect in 28 seconds starting now.
As Julian says, it's a fundamental human right to be respected by other beings of the same species. I would like to now propose a toast to the great...
Oh, it's an impossible game, isn't it? Right. Clement, you challenge first. Great, and you have a point, and you have respect, and you've always had respect, but talk about it in this game starting now.
If you remember the Scout law, which is honour, loyalty, duty, brotherly, courteous, kind, there is nothing about respect, which is sad, because respectfulness, respectability, and respect are things which I believe all children should be brought up to observe.
So Clement Freud, speaking as a Whistlewain, gained the extra point. He's moved forward. He's still in second place behind Paul Merton. And Lisa, it's your turn to begin. What I love about buses. Are you a bus fan or not?
I am. I'm a regular user.
Well, that is the subject. A moment to think about it. If you like buses, it'll be easier perhaps. 60 seconds now, starting now.
There's nothing I like better than hopping off and on a London bus, particularly those ones that make it easy because their back is open, usually found in London, and it is rumoured that they want to ban them, but enough of that. I don't like the enclosed ones. So I get on this open bus, I nip up to the top and down to the front, and I'm banking on a clean window, but it's very rare that London Transport have actually taken...
Clement challenge.
London, third time.
And London buses at the beginning and now London Transport. Right, Clement, a correct challenge. 37 seconds. What I love about buses, starting now.
I don't really have a lot to say, but what I love about buses is their colour and their numbers.
Paul challenged.
A natural stop.
A natural stop, which we call hesitation. 30 seconds, Paul. What I love about buses, starting now.
I love London buses so much because you can go along and see Clement jumping on and off them.
Julian, you challenged.
Hesitation.
I call that hesitation, yes. A stumble over words, we call it hesitation. 25 seconds with you, Julian. What I love about buses, starting now.
What I love about buses is they transport the general public from one stop to another and keep them safe and warm and dry, and I hop on them occasionally in order to overhear the people talking. I once on a bus heard a woman say, "I've got 3 children and a husband on a machine." Her friend said, "Stop dribbling, Shirley," which amused me no end. I rushed home to my parents and said, "You'll never believe what I heard on the bus."
So Julian Clary was speaking as a Whistlewain, gained an extra point. He's equal with Lisa Tarbuck in third place behind Clement Freud, and then Paul Merton in the lead. And Clement, your turn to begin. A soft touch. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
A soft touch is someone who is gullible and will lend you money if you ask, and possibly if you don't. That's the great thing about being a soft touch. Also, of course, it is the hand or perhaps foot or other extremity of the body of someone else touching you. Isn't that...
I think you drifted onto the mist of memory there. You just came to a halt. Well, I'm glad you've got such lovely memories, Clement. Lisa, you challenged first.
I did, because of hesitation,
yes.
because he was thinking about it. And who can blame you?
A soft touch is with you, Lisa, and 36 seconds available starting now.
I've got a nephew who's at that particularly difficult age where hormones have hit. So I find a folded up tenner handed over in a slightly sweaty handshake makes me a very popular auntie, or in fact a soft touch. Salt washes also make you have a soft touch. If you put the salt on before you go in... salt.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of salt.
Yes, salt washes and salt again. So, Paul, you've got in with 16 seconds on a soft touch starting now.
Show business people are often approached by other folk at stage doors who think that you have loads of money and say, "Will you please sponsor me to ride around the Arctic Circle on the back of a double-decker bus that's leaving Piccadilly Circus in about 20 minutes? I say..."
Paul Merton, speaking as a Whistlewind, gained that extra point and has increased his lead. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is yin and yang. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, opposites attract is what they say. For example, if an iceberg was to float into the middle of this room now, I think we'd all be very happy because the overall temperature is extremely high. It is hot in here at the moment. So something that was made of some icy substance coming in towards us, we would say, we will welcome this, we will embrace it. We shall, that's 4 we's, we shall walk together with this iceberg down Oxford Circus, and people will come up to us and they say, "Why are you doing what you're doing?" And I'm saying I am doing this because...
Lisa challenge.
Doing.
Two doings, yes, I'm afraid.
Doings and we's.
We were doing... Yes. There are 30 seconds still available on yin and yang, and it's with you, Lisa, starting now.
Yin and yang are the complementary principles of Chinese philosophy, I'm led to believe. Yin is dark and feminine, yang is bright and masculine. Together, they interact and maintain harmony of the universe and everything within it. Some of the organs of the body have, in fact, got yin or yang elements. For example, your kidneys are yang. So if you were to have a transplant, it would be apt to suggest that somebody else's donor organs would be of the same...
All right.
Who'd have thought it?
Well, so Lisa Tarbuck was speaking then as the whistle went and gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's in a strong third place now behind Clement Freud, and we're moving into the last round. Before we can move into the last round, let me tell you what the situation is. Paul's in a strong lead. He's quite a few points ahead of Clement Freud, and then just behind him is Lisa Tarbuck, and just behind her is Julian Clary. And Julian, it's your turn to begin. The subject is tidying my drawers. 60 seconds, starting now.
Tidying my drawers is something I do every spring. I've got a number of them to choose from. There's a cutlery drawer. There's a knick-knack drawer, which is most exciting amongst all of them. Inside there is all sorts of bits and bobs, which I'm not going to discuss in public on Radio 4. There's another special extra-large drawer on ground level where the saucepans are kept. That's in need of a wipe as we speak, and I'm embarrassed to be discussing it in front of you. Above that is the serviette drawer, which I'm very particular about. They're all ironed and folded, neatly packaged, ready for when my visitors come round. They may be wanting to eat, but on the other hand, they may require to look inside my drawers, if you know what I'm saying. There's a double meaning in most of my sentences, which you haven't always picked up on thus far. Upstairs, the drawers are many and splendid. In the guest bedroom, they're mostly empty, but there's
Right. Well, the audience appreciated your ability there, Julian, because first time it's happened for quite a while. Someone starting with a subject and finishing it, not being challenged, no hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And you have leapt forward, but you're still in third place with Lisa Tarbuck. I know, but it doesn't matter. It's the quality we get. It doesn't matter about the points, does it? So let me give you the final score. Julian Clary and Lisa Tarbuck finished just in third place, 2 or 3 points behind Clement Freud, and he was a few points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, this week you are our winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Lisa Tarbuck, and Clement Freud. I think Claire Bartlett, who's blown her whistle for me so delicately. We thank our producer-director, Claire Jones. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're deeply indebted to this lovely audience here. We're indebted to you. Thank you from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our team. Goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from Edinburgh. We are at the Pleasance during the Edinburgh Fringe Festival up here, and we have 3 wonderful comedians who are doing packed business in their shows, and 1 regular player of the game who's not actually doing a show up here. So would you please welcome, sitting on my right, that outstanding comedian who's excelled so frequently in our show and, of course, in his own show up here. That is Paul Merton. And sitting beside him is somebody who's been associated with this programme for many years, actually ever since it started, and always excels, and that is Clement Freud. And sitting on my left, we have 2 comedians who are also doing capacity business up here. One who's only played the game once before, and that is Dara Ó Briain, and one of them who's never played it before, and that is Mack. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me with the score, and she's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we have in front of us an excited, hyped-up fringe audience. Just eager to get the show going. So let us start with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject in front of me is If Women Rule the World. What a subject. It's got a good reaction already. But talk on that subject you can, Paul. 60 seconds, starting now.
If women ruled the world, George W. Bush would be stacking supermarket shelves. And what a wonderful prospect that would be. Women would be better negotiators than men, apart from that one time in a month when they'd scream, "Kill him!" But easily placated with chocolate and even in primrose oil, they would see the error of their ways. If women ruled the world, there'd be more pastel shades. For example, Clement is sitting next to me in a glorious pink. And why shouldn't men dress like that? He's not afraid of it. He's out. He's gay. He doesn't care.
Clement Freud is challenged.
5 he's.
Yes, there were 5.
5?
We often let 1 or 2 go, but 5 is pushing it too far. So, Clement, a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject, and there are 33 seconds available. If Women Rule the World, starting now.
If women ruled the world, Peter Mandelson would be terribly upset.
Paul, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
It was indeed hesitation. In fact, I think he stopped. He was so overwhelmed at the amazing thought that he expressed. It was worth a round of applause, but it didn't come, so he stopped. Paul, a correct challenge. You have the subject. You have 28 seconds. If women rule the world, starting now.
It is perceived that the feminine sex is the gentler one. I wonder if this is entirely fair, because some men can be very caring. That's 2 days. That's 3. That's 4.
Mack, you've challenged.
I think that was possibly repetition.
It was repetition,
Yeah,
which he told you.
He actually told me about, and also said to me before the show, don't admit it to yourself, otherwise people think of it.
No, but he was looking at you at the time, so there we are. You've got your first point, Lee, and you have 16 seconds. If women ruled the world, starting now.
The last woman to really try and rule the world was, of course, Margaret Thatcher, although technically not a woman, a transsexual.
Clement challenged.
I want him to have a point.
Your generosity is overwhelming, Clement. So,
when you say you mean you want to have a point scored or a direction in which I was heading with the conversation?
I think... So you can't have 2, you can have 1 point, because Clement, being very generous, says, right, you have another point, so you have the subject still, and you have 17 seconds. If women rule the... No, I'm sorry, the light is shining on the stopwatch, and I can't always see what it says. Sorry, Janet. I'm tipping Janet's hand for the sake of people at home listening. I've got a hand in mine now, and I'm tipping it so I can get the light off the stopwatch. And I've repeated that, and I don't get any points. 11 seconds, Lee. If women rule the world, starting now.
There's a bit of a hesitation.
A bit of a hesitation. You need to really come straight in after I say now.
Oh, there's no breathing in at the beginning.
There's no breathing. No, you have to take your breath beforehand and come straight in.
Repetition, deviation, hesitation, or breathing.
So they've been a little...
Plug on.
A bonus point to Lee, because they enjoyed what he said, right. But no, they were generous before. This time, I have to be fair. Paul, a correct challenge, and 10 seconds. If women rule the world, starting now.
If women ruled the world, I wonder if it would be a softer world after all. Perhaps the realities of high-power politics would turn a woman's brain into that...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Paul Merton, and at the end of the round he has 3 points, and Lee Mack has also got 3, Clement's got 1, Dara's yet to speak, and he's yet to... Dara, I think you should take the next round.
Fine.
And the subject is apologising.
Apologising is something
I haven't said no.
Sorry, I was all giddy.
No, that's all right. No, you're keen, which is great. Right. Subject is apologising. 60 seconds, starting now.
Apologising is something I would always regard as a very English disease. They're the only race in the world that would say, I'm sorry, you seem to have run over my child. We're more robust in the Celtic nations. We tend to punch the person who drove the car in the first place and not regard it as being their problem. It is very easy to get away with things in England by simply refusing to say anything at all until the English person capitulates.
Paul challenge.
A repetition of English.
Yes, you had England and English there.
Yeah, but I got the kick in anyway.
I think we must have a predominantly Scottish audience here. Anyway, go give Dara a nice bonus point for that lovely crack he made just then. That's my Scottish blood raising up to the top there. Right, that was my Irish blood then, wasn't it? Sorry. Paul, you have 40 seconds on apologising starting now.
I would like to apologise to this audience for Nicholas's last speech. It didn't really make much sense, but then overall, he's not here to make those kind of speeches.
Dara, challenge.
An incorrect challenge. Speeches and speech, but...
That's right. You can have the singular and the plural. And he's played the game so often, he often indulges in that, and it's very difficult to spot it.
You mean he teased me? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
But you're saying that Paul Merton... Paul essentially beat the long grass and lured me out and shot me with an arrow.
You're above my mantelpiece now.
So, well said, Dara, but can't give you another bonus point. 30 seconds still available, Paul, on apologising with you starting now.
There is a certain art to the graceful apology. I think you should feel genuinely sorry for what you have done. You say to the person, I am very sorry that I covered your mother in petrol, and I had no idea there was going to be a barbecue. The open air seemed like a lovely idea. I set light to her, and up she went like a great big tornado, a towering inferno with a little hat on top. It was an extraordinary sight, and I do now say...
Lee, challenge.
There's a certain amount of deviation going on here, I think. He started talking about setting fire to relatives and not about apologising.
I think that's a good challenge.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Was I not apologising throughout that?
No, but you had gone off apologising onto this barbecue, and we had this image of this woman being set light to and a big hat going off and everything like that. No, I mean...
And you breathed in the middle, which wasn't
So,
Would it be safe to say that that's the end of Lee Mack's honeymoon period on the show?
You've cleverly got in also, Lee, with 2 seconds to go. So it's 2 seconds. Ooh, on apologising starting now.
If you pass wind and lift, the best thing...
So Lee Mack was speaking as the whistle went then, got that extra point. He's 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead, then Dara and then Clement in that order. And Lee, we'd like you to take the next round. And the subject is the best thing about Scotland.
It's very difficult to...
Wait a minute, wait for the now. Yes, I remember what you said before. You're not allowed to breathe in this game.
No, what I was going to say, it's very difficult to remember when to start.
I know. Well, I always give that little pause in between,
right. Okay.
so that you can take your breath.
Okay.
So I said the subject is the best thing about Scotland. 60 seconds, starting now.
It's very difficult to say what the best thing about Scotland is, because there's so many fantastic things. The culinary delights of the food, the weather, the international football team. In fact, if I'm going to be honest, I'm going to struggle to make this to 60 seconds. No, I'm only joking. There's some wonderful things about Scotland. I am, of course, talking about things like the Isle of Skye, the Isle of...
Yes, and Paul challenge first.
Repetition of things.
Yes, you did repeat things, and actually it is the best thing about Scotland. Paul, the correct challenge. You have 42 seconds. The best thing about Scotland starting now.
Some people would say the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is one of the best things about Scotland, but I had a couple of people came to see my show the other night who were from Glasgow.
Dara, challenge.
Repetition of people?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Some people say that,
Yeah,
and
yes.
some people... couple of people... I think more than a couple of people came to see your show, Paul. Dara has a correct challenge. The best thing about Scotland, Dara, 36 seconds available, starting now.
People have a tendency to not to look outside of Edinburgh when they're regarding the best thing about Scotland. Glasgow, for example, has many fine features, including the tiniest underground train in the world, which looks as if it's been carved out of the rock by elves. When you sit on this, you begin to think, what was this originally designed for? Was it to take workers from one side of the chocolate factory over to the river with the large boiled sweet on it? That's also the...
You did so well, and then we had as they said in Punch in the old days, the collapse of Stout Party. Lee, you challenged first.
Yes, there was a bit of hesitation though.
There was a bit of hesitation, I agree. So you now have the best thing about Scotland, and there are 11 seconds starting now.
I love the bagpipes. To some people, just a loud, nauseating bag of wind, but to the deaf, I wonder...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of bag.
No, bag, I said. Bag of wind.
Bagpipe, bag of wind.
Bagpipes
Bag of wind.
Bagpipes is all
Oh, I
one
see.
word.
Yes.
And he repeats.
And then he said bag of wind, which is a single word.
All one word.
It's 3 words.
No, not. There's 3 words. And you have 6 seconds available still. Another point, of course. The best thing about Scotland, Lee, starting now.
I think that tatty cakes...
Clement challenge.
He has already thought.
So
Yes.
breathing and thinking.
Yeah, that's right, yes. You did say, I think, before, when you were
Okay,
speaking
that's
before.
good.
And you can't repeat again, when you start again, the words you said before. Clement, you got him with 4 seconds on the best thing about Scotland, starting now.
Single malt whisky, haggis, Billy Connolly, and the University of St.
Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went. He gained an extra point. He's moved forward. He's equal to Dara Ó Briain in second place, and they're both behind the other two who are in first place. And Dara, your turn to begin. The subject is self-help books. 60 seconds as usual, and you start now.
Self-help books is a section of a bookshop that I will always walk straight past, predominantly because they're designed for businessmen. And like most things designed for people who travel the world trying to make money, they are expressly made so that they can be read one-handed, while the second hand is raised in the air in a triumphant salute of victory, having just sealed the Bukowski deal or some such other nonsense. This also applies to dating ones. Men may be from Mars, women are from...
Lead challenge.
That's repetition of men.
Yes, there was men before.
No, they only
I'm
had
afraid.
2 men now.
It's we have to listen.
Yeah,
You will have to listen very carefully with you. It goes so fast. We wonder whether we've some
What?
words. There's certain
I
brilliant.
think I have you on hesitation there.
I think so, yes. But I can't give you a point for it, I'm afraid, Dara. But, all right, give him a point. A bonus point, then. They enjoyed the challenge, right. Lee, you've got in on self-help books. 39 seconds, starting now.
I bought a self-help book recently about memory, and for the life of me, I can't remember where I put it, but it's a very good read, I'm sure. I also bought one for my friend recently who went on the act.
Dara, challenge.
Did I tell you?
Yes?
Okay, well, if you're forcing me into it, bought.
Yes, that's right. He did repeat bought. He did repeat bought. I bought one recently. And
I should have said I nicked it.
And that's, yes. So, Dara, you've got him in 31 seconds. You've got the subject back. Self-help books starting now.
One should always buy self-help books. Stealing them surely is against the whole credo. It would be ridiculous to have to putting them in a deep pocket as you walked out of the shop. Surely that's against everything that Chicken Soup for the Soul is trying to tell you. Another ridiculous school of these kind of things. Like I said, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Yeah, you're right, John.
Paul, you challenged.
Yes, like he said.
Like he said. And he had repeated it. Right. So, Paul, you've
Nice
got
to
him...
flag up the repetition in advance, though. I wouldn't have been quite so quick otherwise.
Yes, you do have to listen very carefully with Dara, because he can go so fast you don't know what he's talking about. The 15 seconds, self-help books with you, Paul, starting now.
I remember buying a self-help book in 1989 called The Magic of Thinking Big. And sometimes when you read these volumes, if you're feeling a little bit low in confidence, they actually can give you a bit of a boost by suggesting very obvious things that you can do to maintain your profile and confidence in the world.
So, for those interested in the score, only 2 points separates all 4 of them. Paul's now taking the lead, 1 ahead of Lee, Mack and Clement Freud, and they're 1 ahead of Dara Ó Briain. So, Clement, why don't you take the next round? Subject, tattoos. 60 seconds, starting now.
I went to a prep school whose motto was Hinc in Altiora, from here to higher things, which all boys had to have tattooed on their forearms. The headmaster went to prison as a consequence. Tattoos are also what trumpets play, especially in the army, where you get "Come to the cookhouse door" or "God save the Queen," and these are tattoos. I've no idea why the one word is so similar to the other, but it's not my...
Paul, you challenge first. Yes.
Hesitation.
26 seconds available. Tattoos starting now.
They're quite a useful device in society. If someone's got a spider web tattooed on their face, you know they're never going to be Prime Minister, and you should stay away from it. Because I think that kind of mutilation, when it's upon your own visage, is surely means you have a low self-esteem. If we look at Nicholas Parsons, it's hard to believe that beneath his body he's a rippling mass of tattoos. He has got the A to Z of Edinburgh.
Lee challenged.
I feel sick again.
So, you mean the thought of my body covered in tattoos makes you feel sick?
No, I'm still thinking about Clement going upstairs tonight.
I think you deserve a bonus point anyway for the audience reaction, but have you got another legitimate challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Yes.
What? Deviation?
Deviated,
Well
yes.
done. I don't prepare to strip off in front of this audience and prove that it's incorrect. Right.
I feel sick again.
Clement challenge.
Repetition of being sick.
They're all searching for bonus points. No, I mean, it was deviation, because I can assure everybody, and I don't cheat, that I don't have any tattoos. So you were correct in your assumption. And you have the subject of tattoos, Lee, starting now. And only 6 seconds, starting now.
My favourite tattoo is that little fella from Fantasy Island that used to just go, "The plane!" and then say it again, but didn't repeat it, which was lucky.
So, Lee Mack was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now 1 ahead of Clement Freud, 1 behind Paul Merton, and 2 or 3 ahead of Dara Ó Briain. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. Robert Burns. 60 seconds, starting now.
Robert Burns is one of the most noted of all Scottish poets, and who can forget that opening stands to his wonderful poem, Ni Clacon Wakadao, Bang Jampo, Sassenach.
Lee, you challenge.
Deviation, that was a Japanese poem.
No, Paul, it was deviation. So, Lee, you got in with 49 seconds. Robert Burns starting now.
Can anyone really compete with Robert Burns as a...
Paul, challenge.
Linford Christie. He'd give him a good run for his money, wouldn't he?
A bonus point to Paul, but Lee was interrupted, so he gets another point for that. He still has Robert Burns as a subject, that is, and he has 47 seconds starting now.
As having the biggest lunchbox in Scotland.
Paul, challenge.
Lunchbox?
Yes, lunchbox. It's a South African lunchbox, all right?
Yeah, Paul has a correct challenge. 43 seconds. Robert Burns, back with you, Paul, starting now.
If we were to throw petrol over him, would Robert burn? Well, I suppose he probably would.
You don't have to come up to Scotland and throw petrol over their national poet. But, Dara, you challenge.
You haven't
first.
seen his new show, then?
Dara, you challenge first.
I challenge, yes.
That's right. I'd like to know what your challenge was.
My challenge was hesitation when I realised the audience had begun to hate him for saying
So that was
Robert
hesitation. Well done, Dara. And you have... sorry, I keep taking Janet's hand and pushing it down. And...
I've actually been sick now.
Oh, dear me. Dara, there are 30 seconds available. Robert Burns, starting now.
The line I best remember from Robert Burns from school was one from The Giftie. I wish that God, that thing gie us to see ourselves as others would also see. It's very difficult to do the line, particularly under the rules of this
Lee,
particular...
you pressed your buzzer.
I just don't like the sound of his voice.
Well, if you
It's all
can't give me a
lilting in
correct
noise,
challenge
I don't
now,
like it.
I mean, we must leave it with Dara because you didn't give me a correct and accurate challenge. So, Dara, you still have the subject. 23 seconds. Robert Burns, starting now.
The poet managed to touch on many universal themes. The best...
Lee challenge.
Deviation, he's just saying something very quick and he's not making any sense at all. He could be talking about anything, couldn't he?
He could have been, but he thought he was talking about Robert Burns. And I understood it all the time. Because he's Irish.
All right, fair enough.
Dara, 20 seconds
open
to...
bigotry and you're applauding it.
No, it's affection for the Irish.
Oh, it's an
Yes,
affection.
Yes, it is.
You do a great job on the roads. Is that what you're saying?
Dara, you have another point, and you have Robert Burns and 20 seconds starting now.
To this day, the poet still speaks to us. Robbie Burns has said many things such as the best laid plans of mice and men oft gang a glee, and who has not seen their plans often go wrong in such a way?
Paul, challenge.
Plans, sadly.
Plans, yes. Yeah. It's difficult to quote Robbie Burns without repeating something.
Especially when you quote him twice.
I know. Right. So 10 seconds for you on Robert Burns, Paul, starting now.
I remember studying the poetry of Robert Burns in my A-level and looking at those marvellous lines as they speak to you down through the centuries, and I thought in my heart, I've never read a word in my life.
So, Paul Merton speaking as a whistle when gained. That extra point has moved forward a little. I'll give you the score as we move into the final round. It's very close still. Dara Ó Briain and Clement Freud are equal in third place, but they're only 2 points behind Mack, who's 3 points behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. And Dara, it's your turn to begin. The subject is now sharks. Tell us something about sharks in just a minute, starting now.
I know a little bit about this topic because I travelled recently in Australia up the Great Barrier Reef, where sharks are very predominant, and they do give you warnings about how to deal with the animals should you encounter them in the wild. It's not a particularly effective piece of information. Apparently, if a shark shoots toward you at 60 miles an hour in the water, you're supposed to stand bobbing in the water and punch him in...
Clement, you challenge.
Water. Twice.
Water, yes, you had
But
the
the
water.
thing is here, you see, we've been interrupted because if a shark is swimming towards us, we know punch him in the, but we don't know what. This programme is going all over the world.
I think he should have it back.
We just don't know.
There's a long-time player of the game who show his generosity. We'll give you a bonus point for your generosity and your round of applause as well. Not 2 points, just 1 point. And
No.
Dara,
No, if I get a bonus point...
You get your bonus point, yes.
I've already got 1 point for interrupting.
Oh, yes.
So I get 2 points.
But it wasn't a legitimate challenge. I want him to have it back. That's not the hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Oh, shut up! You're not... All right, we'll give him his 2
Wait a minute. This act of generosity on behalf of Clement merely gets him a point that moves me into last place on my own.
That's true.
I would like to formally reject his kind offer. I'd leave him in the doldrums with me if you don't mind.
You will get another bonus point for that particular interjection, which the audience applauded. So another point to Dara there. There we are. And you've still got and you get a point for being interrupted.
Oh, right.
There we are. Another point to Dara there. And you've still got sharks.
If I could finally say that, maybe you should listen back over the tape. This is the kind of cheating that Clement's been doing for 35 years. Oh, he comes bearing gifts, certainly.
Another bonus point for that. They enjoyed that. So now you're back equal.
I can keep going at this for a while if you want to keep giving me bonus points.
No,
let's give Clement a bit of a mountain to climb in the last 2 minutes, right?
You're now equal with Clement. You still have sharks. You have 41 seconds starting now.
I have sharks, but where should you strike them? I believe the key point is to strike them on the nose.
Clement challenged.
2 strikes.
2 strikes. So, Clement, you now have sharks, and you're going to go with it. 36 seconds available, starting now.
During the war, one used to eat shark. It was especially good with a bolognese sauce, but also a hollandaise and even a bechamel. You cut fillets and grill them or serve them with broad beans, which was just about the only vegetable which didn't appear to be rationed during those hostilities. I know a woman who had a cook whose daughter-in-law often served sharks.
Lee challenged.
So what was the subject? I've forgotten now.
Sharks.
Oh, right, in that case, deviation.
Why?
Because he was talking about some slapper in the war who was cooking a meal, and then he took her upstairs, and it's just all a bit disgusting, isn't it?
Well, I still think he was talking about cooking the shark,
which made you feel sick.
Yeah.
But Lee, I think we enjoyed your interruption, so you get a bonus point for that.
Oh, cheers.
But Clement gets his point for the incorrect challenge, and he keeps going with 10 seconds on sharks starting now.
There's an expression, a loan shark, which is not sharks, but people who lend money at absolutely inappropriate and unacceptable rates. Like
that lovely round of applause there confirmed to me that you've enjoyed yourself and you want to know what the final situation was. Well, it's very fair as regards the points, because their contributions were all magnificent right across the board. And particularly from Lee Mack, who's never played it before, and Dara Ó Briain, who's only played it once before. You both came together equal in a very strong second place. But only 2 points ahead, and to show you how fair this game can be, because their contributions are all magnificent, equal in first place, only 2 points ahead, were Paul Merton and Clement Freud. I thank them all for their wonderful, magnificent contribution in this particular edition, which is Paul Merton, Lee Mack, Dara Ó Briain and Clement Freud. I also thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle with such elegance. I thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're deeply indebted to this lovely fringe audience here who've cheered us on our way with magnificent style. I hope they'll come and see all the shows of the people who've appeared in the show, and we come back again when we do another show from Edinburgh. Until then, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our audience and our team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play.
Just a Minute returns to the airwaves in 2 weeks' time with another show from Edinburgh featuring two new boys, comedians Rob Brydon and Marcus Brigstocke.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away once more, it is my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only those who receive us via Radio 4, but also on BBC 7 and the Internet, and of course on the World Service. And this particular show is coming from Edinburgh, and we are in the Pleasance, which is one of the venues which is on the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and we have an exciting audience here. We have somebody who's played it frequently and is one of our top comedians and very popular on the show, and that is Paul Merton, and sitting beside him is somebody he always gives huge contribution, that is Clement Freud, and sitting on my left there's two comedians who have not played Just a Minute before, and they are Rob Brydon and Marcus Brigstocke, and will you please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst. She's going to help me keep the score. She has a stopwatch in one hand, a whistle in the other, and she'll blow that when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And in front of us we have a really excited, hyped up festival fringe audience eager to get going. So let's start the show with Rob Brydon, being a Celt. Clement, you've challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, right.
That is almost
no, it wasn't. I think
systematic, institutionalised intimidation and abuse on a hitherto... And why am I wasting this now?
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
But I think it also means being slightly generous, so that make sure you got a point.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So you have a point for being interrupted before you got going, and...
in which case, feel free to interrupt me again before I get going.
And you have, 59 and a half seconds. Being a Celt, starting now.
To begin at the beginning, being a Celt is surely one of the greatest gifts that God can bestow on any man of this earth, particularly those that find themselves to be natives of the British Isles, whether you be an English person or a Welsh person. It is... What do I do?
Person. Oh, Clement, your challenge. Person. English person, Welsh person. It's a difficult game.
Not played it before.
I know. And you were going so well, you were just actually carried away with it, weren't you?
I was getting a bit full of myself, wasn't I?
No, you weren't. You were giving such wonderful information. Clement, a correct challenge, so you have being a Celt. 41 seconds, Clement, being a Celt, starting now.
I'm not sure what being a Celt is. I am not. But
Paul challenged.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. He's not a Celt, and
really?
he paused. He was wondering for a moment what he was, I think.
Hesitation between two words, that's right. Just clarifying your ruling, Nicholas.
Yes.
Wonderful chairman, best chairman we've got. Wonderful.
The only one who'd ever put up with all of you, isn't it? So, Paul, you have a challenge, which is correct. You have 37 seconds, being a Celt, starting now.
If anybody knows about being a Celt, it's Nicholas Parsons. When he walks through the courtyard of the Pleasance, people shout, "Look at that Celt over there." And it's wonderful, because nobody actually knows his lineage or where he was born, but it's undoubtedly true as he walks through this magnificent city of Edinburgh.
Rob
I
challenge.
just thought there was a repetition of walks.
No, he said walk and walks, you see. This is the awful thing about this game. And they are so clever at it because they've been playing it so often, you see. They do that. Walk.
Nicholas, I have to say, I think I did say walks twice.
Well, that's very generous of you, because knowing how you play the game, Paul, and once or twice you've done this...
Normally I would, but I made a mistake.
So, well done. Well done.
Thank you very much.
And well listened. So you've got in there. I'll have to twist Janet's arm again and say you have 22 seconds, being a Celt, starting now.
There are many qualities which mark out a Celt: a dark, swarthy frame, a low centre of gravity, an ability with the rugby ball that borders on genius, although as the years have gone by, the performances on the pitch haven't been what they once used to be. In the old days, players such as J.P.R. Williams, Gareth Edwards, Phil Bennett, Ray Gravel.
So Rob Brydon was listening well and got in there before the end and kept going to get that extra point when the whistle went. He's now equal with Clement Freud and Paul Merton in the lead, all three together. Marcus Brigstocke has yet to speak, and now it is his chance.
What?
Marcus, yes.
Oh, good.
Good, right.
I'm ready.
That's right, Marcus, you want to say something?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. The subject is corduroy. Have a little moment to think about it. I don't know why they laugh. I don't know what you're wearing, but it's not corduroy, is it? No,
No, not the suit.
Corduroy, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I'm a big fan of corduroy. I think it's a very reliable fabric. One thing you do have to be enormously careful of, though, is walking too fast, because the two sides of the trouser will rub together, causing a terrible friction between the legs, and can often start what we corduroy wearers refer to as a small bushfire, which can be tremendously uncomfortable. You will have seen this if you follow portly women in corduroy trousers in a hurry to get to a shop down the high street. I have always favoured the corduroy myself because I think it carries with it a certain gravitas, a certain...
Yeah. Can I give you a tip?
Please do,
If you happen to slip up like that, don't draw attention to it.
Right, yes.
Because sometimes they can be generous, the regulars, and let you go on.
They'd have to be generous and stupid to have missed that one. But bless you, I'll make it of it.
Paul, you challenge.
A repetition of Sir.
That's right. So you've got the subject of corduroy, Paul, and you have 22 seconds starting now.
I'm amazed that I've got 22 seconds to talk on corduroy because it's not nearly long enough. Corduroy for me has been an obsession since I was 7 years old when I was given some for my birthday. And what a beautiful present it was. You can imagine my eyes alight with wonder and surprise as I opened up the package and said to my parents, "You have bought me corduroy! How wonderful!" I immediately constructed a motor car.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's now taken the lead at the end of the round. And Paul, it's also your turn to begin. The subject here is how to tell when someone is lying. Interesting subject. Off you go, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Hello, my name's Tony Blair, and I believe there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. This is one of the lies that if you hear, you can tell the person is lying. There are other physical attributes, such as scratching your nose or just rubbing your chin. Sometimes, perhaps, you go purple because there is a belief that your skin, your...
Clement challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, we call that hesitation. Clement, how to tell when someone is lying, and there are 41 seconds starting now.
If you meet a Celt who says, "Where's Holyrood?" I'm wearing corduroy.
Marcus challenge.
A hesitation on wearing corduroy.
Well, he did. I mean, all that sort
Yes.
of confused speech. We interpret that as hesitation. Marcus? And so, Marcus, you've got in with the correct challenge. A point to you, 35 seconds. How to tell when someone is lying, starting now.
As Paul was pointing out, there are lots of different ways of telling.
Paul, challenge.
Well, it's repetition.
Why?
Because as I pointed out.
Because the audience enjoyed Paul's interruption, give him a bonus point. But it was not a correct challenge within the rules of Just a Minute, Marcus, so you have another point, which is good for you, and you have 32 seconds to continue on how to tell when someone is lying, starting now.
There are lots of ways to tell if somebody's lying. Body language would be one of them. Talking to Jeffrey Archer would be another. That's a sure sign that somebody is fibbing. There are also lots of opportunities to...
Rob, challenge.
Repetition of lots.
Yes,
lots of it.
Lots
of repetition.
So well listened, Rob, and you got in with 21 seconds on this subject of how to tell when someone is lying, starting now.
Some say that lying is an important part of everyday life so as not to cause offence to people. For example, some who maybe have put on some weight and you don't...
Clement, challenge.
3 sums.
There were 3 sums.
3?
3, yes.
It was almost an equation.
That's appalling, isn't it?
It's not really appalling. I mean, it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? I should explain to all our listeners overseas that is a phrase that Rob uses in his stage show and also on his television show.
Almost incessantly.
And it's very effective. But that was it.
Still repetition.
All right. And, yes, but don't use it too often here because it will be repetition, as you say. Right. Clement, a correct challenge, how to tell when someone is lying, and there are 11 seconds starting now.
You look them carefully into the face and watch.
To the face?
What was that?
You look them carefully...
You look them carefully into the... What is that? That is deviation from the English language. Certainly something in that area.
That's the area, right.
Yes.
So, Rob, you have the benefit of the doubt, you have the subject, and you have 7 seconds. How to tell when someone is lying, starting now.
Often when a person is lying...
Clement, challenge.
He said person earlier.
You said person earlier. No, you can't if you've been already used it when you were speaking before.
Any words you've used in your previous life appear in here. You can't use any of those.
No, you can't use the same word in the same round again.
I'll play with the rules, but I'm not happy.
Oh, no. Well, if you genuinely didn't know, maybe Clement will be generous and let it go on this occasion.
Yes.
Right. Give him the bonus point for his generosity. Clement gets a bonus point for generosity, but for the newcomers, if you've lost the subject and get it back, you mustn't use words you used when you were talking before, on this subject only. Right. How to tell when someone is lying, and there are 5 seconds left, Rob, starting now.
Sometimes...
Yes,
He said some before.
Sometimes.
But this time he said sometimes, which is one word.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. As a literate man who writes articles frequently in the newspapers, I'm quite surprised to hear you say that. But then bluffing is one of your big strong points.
Sometimes.
He's right, there's a gap the way he says it.
Yeah.
There is a gap. There is a
Hesitation.
Sometimes... I agree with you, Clement. The context in which you use it, it can be sometimes. But on this occasion, he was saying sometimes, and as an opener to his sentence. So, Rob, an incorrect challenge. You have another point, and you have 4 seconds, starting now.
A person will often try and...
Oh, no! I will say this, Rob, you're about the only person to get rounds of applause when they make a mistake.
You should come home with me.
Oh,
dear.
Right, Paul, yes.
Repetition of person.
Yes, person.
Incredibly.
Surprisingly. And Paul, you've got him with 2 seconds to go on how to tell when someone is lying, starting now.
How to tell when someone is lying. It's a very...
So, at the end of that round, Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle end, gained that extra point. He's now 1 ahead of Clement Freud. He's 2 ahead of Rob Brydon. And Marcus Brigstocke springing up the rear. We're back with Clement Freud. Clement, another Scottish subject up here in Edinburgh. Mary, Queen of Scots. Oh, what a fascinating character. Talk about her if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
In Australia, if someone is lucky, they say she landed with her bum in the butter. Now, Mary, Queen of Scots, could not ever be said to be like that. She had a really unhappy childhood. She became queen when she was 1 week old. Born in 1542, she was executed before the age of 50, having spent 19 years in prison. Elizabeth
Marcus Jarrett.
Yes, there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes, Marcus. And so you have Mary Queen of
Queen
Scots.
Mary and Elizabeth. There has to be.
In order to pay due deference
Didn't
to...
like each other.
No, yes.
But I don't think your pause conveyed all that.
I failed.
32 seconds for you, Marcus, to tell us something about Mary Queen of Scots, starting now.
Mary Queen of Scots, or as she's known here in Scotland, Mary Queen, was queen for a while, and that's history. You know, I just do programmes about it. I don't really know anything about it.
But Paul, you challenge first.
Slight hesitation.
Slight hesitation, yes, right.
It was going to get longer as well, so you were right about it.
So, Paul, another point to you, and 22 seconds, Mary Queen of Scots, starting now.
How lovely to have 22 seconds to talk about Mary Queen of Scots, as indeed I had for the very same subject of Corduroy a little while ago. Well, I'm going to take those seconds, and I'm...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of seconds.
Seconds.
No, I said second that time.
No, you definitely, I was listening. Clement, a correct challenge. Mary Queen of Scots, and there are 13 seconds starting now.
When I came from King's Cross in London, I travelled on a train called Mary Queen of Scots, which...
Paul, challenge.
I had the bloke painting the side of the train had a stroke in the middle of the...
So your challenge is...
Well, it's deviation from Mary Queen of Scots.
Yes. And it was Mary Queen of Scots, whatever it was. And, yes, I think, with benefit of the doubt, and 7 seconds on Mary Queen of Scots with you, Paul, starting now.
Acne's been a terrible problem here in Edinburgh, but if you go to a chemist called Mary, she's Mary, Queen of Spots. What a wonderful woman. She puts the cream right on your face, it disappears immediately.
So, once again, Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's a few points ahead of Clement Freud, Rob Brydon and Marcus Brigstocke in that order. And Rob, back with you to begin. The subject, DJs. Can you tell us something about DJs in this game, starting now?
I was once a DJ for the BBC in Wales.
Clement challenge.
BBC.
Oh, for heaven's sake! This is victimisation.
It's one of the things that happens in just a minute.
But
it oughtn't.
And of
let
course,
him go on.
I know. Because the regulars listen for those sort of things, which are common sense, almost like a word, isn't it, BBC?
Almost.
But actually, within rules of just a minute, it is repetition of B. So,
And
but
I'm
anyway,
not
no. Clement has been generous. Listen, who's running this show? No, Clement has been very generous. So give him a point for generosity. You were interrupted, so you get a point for that. And you have DJs, and you have 56 seconds starting now.
My programme begin at
And that's what happens. You get interrupted, you lost the flow.
Absolutely awful, yeah.
And, no, not awful. It was lovely. They love it. They love it. 53 seconds. Marcus, you challenged first. I think I know what it was, but can you tell me just to be sure?
Yes, it was sort of slow grinding down
There was hesitation.
of Rob's ability to speak.
You're right. So we call that hesitation. It's much simpler to put it into one word.
OK.
And you have DJs, and you have 53 seconds starting now.
Clement was absolutely right to interrupt, because people are always complaining about repeats on the British Broadcasting Corporation. However, the modern DJ is a slightly different animal from the one that broadcasts on the radio. Clement
challenge. Hesitation. Yes, so Clement, you have something now. And you have DJs, Clement, you have 37 seconds starting now.
I don't know many DJs. I believe it's short for disc jockey. But I know a lot of jockeys. Let me tell you the names of Hugh Gordon-Richards, Steve Donahue, Lester Piggott, Arthur Breesley.
Yes, it's a deviation. It's a clever deviation, but it's a deviation.
It's a deviation, yes. Because he's talking about jockeys and not DJs.
Yes.
What are DJs?
Disc jockeys.
I was talking about jockeys.
I know. But the subject is disc jockeys.
And I'm owed the benefit of the doubt.
No. But you won't get it for that one, because I think it's definitely DJs are disc jockeys, and you were talking about presumably jockeys who ride horses. So you have the subject, Rob, and you have another point, of course, and you have 21 seconds. DJs starting now.
If Clement had decided to list DJs, he might have come up with names along the lines of Dave Lee Travis, Tony Blackburn, Mike Reed.
Paul, challenge.
I don't think Clement would ever come up with that list.
The point is, we don't know. He might surprise us all and come up with...
Is there any way we could ask him?
No.
Has anybody seen Clement Freud? He's in the building, I'm sure.
But what we do is we don't ask him, we give you a bonus point because the audience enjoyed your interruption. But you weren't interrupted, so you get a point for that, Rob, and you keep DJs and 12 seconds starting now.
Pete Tong, Steve Wright, Mark Lamar, Terry Wogan, Ken Bruce.
The thing about listing is eventually you dry up. 5 seconds, Paul, on DJs starting now.
The first DJ to work on radio in this country was called Christopher Stone. He broadcast in 1925.
So Paul Merton has increased his lead with an extra point for speaking as a whistle went, and he's ahead of Clement Freud and Rob Brydon, who are equal in second place. Marcus Brigstocke is bringing up the rear. He's only just in fourth place, and...
It's very kind of you, Nicholas, but I think we all know it's not true.
It is, actually. But it's your turn to begin, Marcus. For some reason, the subject they've thought of for you is here, working on an oil rig. I don't know if you have any personal experience of that.
I do.
You have? Well, there's the subject. 60 seconds as usual. Off you go. Now.
They've given me the subject of working on an oil rig because it's what I did when I was a teenager. I have to say, at the time, I was also working as a podium dancer in between working on the oil rig, which was enormous fun. I had long hair and a goatee beard, and I was tremendously popular with many of the other workers aboard the rig while we drilled in the North Sea for oil, and in between my long 2-week shifts...
Clement, challenge.
Repetition of long.
Yes, long hair, you see.
Hair and shifts.
Those are the rules of just a minute or less. Long shift.
And also that was quite patronising, so...
Correct challenge, Clement. You have 35 seconds. Tell us something about... Oh, this would be interesting. Working on an oil rig. Starting now.
If you want to visit someone who is working on an oil rig, as I did recently, in order to ascertain what sort of food and drink was available to such workers, I went...
Paul, challenge.
Slight hesitation.
Yeah, definite hesitation. Right. Working on an oil rig with you, Paul. 21 seconds, starting now.
Unusual to have 21 seconds instead of the normal figure that I normally have allocated for a subject, but working on an oil rig is a fascinating experience. I was 19 years old at the time.
Marcus, challenge.
Yeah, deviation. I worked on an oil rig and it's not fascinating.
You see, that is one of those difficult decisions I have to make. That could be a matter of opinion. You know, you didn't think it was fascinating. Paul could think it was fascinating.
I'm prepared to come in.
It's not fascinating, it's terrifying is what it is.
The benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt was going to you, Paul.
Oh, I'll have it then.
All right. And you have 12 seconds working on an oil rig starting now.
The North Sea brushing against the steel legs that are embedded in the ocean. It was fantastic to be...
Marcus, challenge.
I'm terribly sorry, deviation again. They're not embedded in the ocean. The oil rigs that operate in the North Sea float.
You seem to doubt that, Paul.
No, absolutely. The one I had was embedded in the ocean. That's what made it so fascinating. It was from every other oil rig. They quickly abandoned the idea because they said, what's the point? We could have them floating. And somebody went, sea float. So after that, they abandoned it, which is probably when you went.
Yeah.
And, Marcus, a correct challenge. And you have the subject, because you know and we don't. 6 seconds, working on an oil rig starting now.
I happen to know that oil rigs float because when I was working on one, we tipped our oil rig up on 12 degrees.
Paul, challenge.
Had we tipped?
No, the audience are listening as well as me. That's good. You have half a second, Marcus, on working on an oil rig starting now. And another one. So, Marcus Brigstocke was speaking and the whistle went then, and he got that extra point. He's leapt forward. He's still in fourth place, but he's... No, he's now only 2 points behind Rob Brydon, 3 behind Clement Freud, and 5 behind Paul Merton in that order. And Rob, it is also your turn to begin. The subject is optimism. You're very optimistic in your show, I think, and it's lovely. But you talk on the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
This is my first appearance on...
Marcus challenge.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think this round's going to go really well for you, and I...
So the new boys are playing together over there on the left. So Marcus, give him a bonus. The audience applauded. Give him a bonus point because they enjoyed the interruption. But Rob gets a point because he was interrupted. And you have 58 seconds on optimism, Rob, starting now.
A sense of optimism is vital as you step into the arena here next to Nicholas, as you look out at the audience and wonder, how am I going to manage to fill a minute on a variety of subjects that I perhaps know...
Marcus challenged.
Deviation, plus the bell's a bit broken. But because you don't fill your minute on a variety of subjects, the minute is filled with one subject at a time. I'm sorry, I've got a lot of points to make up.
I think that was a very clever challenge. And maybe a certain benefit of the doubt, but you have it.
What
and you have, you have the
subject?
Point, you have the subject, yes.
Which
you have
is...
optimism. And you have an optimistic attitude already, and you have 46 seconds starting now.
People say you can define optimism by whether or not somebody looks at a glass of milk and says that it's half full or 50% empty. But I don't think that that's actually the best way of judging whether somebody is really optimistic.
Rob, challenge.
A repetition of weather.
Weather, yes, there were 2 weathers.
Much like being in Scotland, raining.
And, Rob, you've got it back, and the 2 of you are fighting it out here to bring up the rear. 32 seconds. Optimism starting now.
I'm pretty optimistic that I'll be able to bring up the rear very convincingly against Marcus as my point tally slips ever downward on the slope to...
Paul, challenge.
Well, that is deviation. Your point tally can't slip down.
No, that was...
Relatively,
deviation.
it can.
No, not
as others rise, surely my tally appears to slip down.
No, in the realm of pure mathematics, it stays stationary. Relatively, it will appear less, but it will not go down. It was a correct challenge, Paul, so I've got to be fair and just within the rules of just a minute. You have the subject. You have 22 seconds. Optimism starting now.
Once again, 22 seconds to talk about a subject. How curious that number should come round every time. Perhaps if you are optimistic, you can think perhaps it is
Clement, challenge.
Repetition of perhaps.
Yes, and you have optimism, Clement, and you have 14 seconds starting now.
One would have to be hugely optimistic to do the subject in 14 seconds. It's an odd number, but I shall do my very best to optimism in that number.
Rob, challenge.
Well, there was a repetition of do and also hesitation. Yeah, to do the number, one would have to be,
One challenge will be sufficient, Rob.
Okay, the challenge I'm going to go with then is hesitation.
And hesitation I'd agree with entirely. So you have optimism back, you have 4 seconds, and you start now.
With a total of 4 seconds remaining, surely even the bleakest optimist would feel that...
Well, as I said before, this was to be the last round, and what an interesting round it was. A lot of points were scored, and just give you the final situation. Marcus Brigstocke, who's never played the game before, came back, and he finished in a brilliant 4th place. He really... And he was a point or 2 behind someone who's played the game more times than anybody else. That was Clement Freud, at great value as always. And he was 1 point behind Rob Brydon, who's never played it, but he was in 2nd place. A few points ahead of them was Paul Merton. So, Paul, you come out on top as the victor this week. Only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Marcus Brigstocke, Rob Brydon, and Clement Freud. I thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me keep the score, and she's blown her whistle, well, nearly every time, with such delicacy, except for the time she swallowed it. And we thank our producer, that is Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this delightful game, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here on the Fringe, who have cheered us on our way in a magnificent way. From this audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and this team, thank you. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to this show 4 distinctive and talented players of the game. And they're going to try and show their fun and sense of humour, their verbal dexterity, their humorous ingenuity as they speak on the subject that I give them, and try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4, sitting on my right, are Paul Merton and Clement Freud, and sitting on my left, it is Victor Spinetti and Steve Frost. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And sitting beside me is Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow her whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the magnificent Grand Theatre in the heart of that magnificent city of Swansea. And we have a lovely, excited, vociferous Welsh audience in front of us who are going to cheer us on our way as we begin the show this week with Clement Freud. Clement, the best thing about Wales is the subject. Will you talk on it 60 seconds starting now?
I suppose different people have differing ideas about Wales, and for me the best thing about Wales is Penrhyn Druidrith. It is almost impossible to pronounce and far harder to spell than Rill, Colwyn Bay, Abergavenny.
Poor challenge.
There's a hesitation there.
There was, yes. He ran out of place names. And 39 seconds. Paul, you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject. And 39 seconds to tell us something about the best thing about Wales, starting now.
Well, it's the way everyone in Swansea loves everybody in Cardiff.
Clement, you challenge. Yes. Everybody. You pressed your buzzer first, so you've got in first.
Hang on, no, I said everyone and everybody.
I did. And Clement was a bit too sharp there, so...
Everyone in Swansea loves everybody in Cardiff.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. He's played the game before.
Yes.
An incorrect challenge, everyone and everybody, 35 seconds. Still with you, Paul. The best thing about Wales, starting now.
My first professional appearance was here in Swansea's wonderful, beautiful city.
Clement, challenge.
I don't think it was a city when you were here.
So
when did Swansea become a city?
It was 67.
69, they're saying.
And you weren't old enough to be here then, were you?
No, not really.
No. So another incorrect challenge, so you have another point for that, Paul. 29 seconds, the best thing about Wales, starting now.
Was the limitless supply of beer I found when I first appeared here, because no matter when you went into the pub, people would greet you with open arms and say, "Come in and enjoy the finest pint of ale brewed this side of the high street." And you would sit down and it was beautiful, the chat, the talk, the land of song. People would come towards you, speaking sometimes a strange tongue or dialect that you didn't at first understand, but then the warmth of the occasion would infuse you, and you'd be taken out in the middle of Vine Street on a Saturday night.
I could listen to him for hours. Merton displaying his talent and showing what an expert at this game he is, going with style and éclat right until the whistle went, for which he gets an extra point, and at the end of that round he's the only one to have any points at all. And Victor Spinetti, will you take this round? The subject is jams. Will you tell us something about jams in this game, starting now?
Jams. Well, traffic jams are the things I would really like to talk about, because coming down here today even, I was stuck in a traffic jam on the M4. But the most glamorous description of a traffic jam, can I say it again? I don't know whether I can say it again.
You can say jams again, that's the subject.
Oh, I can't say traffic jams. Oh, well, there you are.
No, that's right. I should explain to our listeners, this is only the second time that Victor has played the game, so...
And the last.
No, not the last, certainly.
Oh, it's a nice story, too. Never mind.
You'll get a chance later. Correct challenge. Wait, let's hear what it was, Paul.
So repetition of traffic.
Yes, right.
Of course, you're right.
46 seconds. Jams is with you, Paul, starting now.
I remember reading a sentence that sent me into paroxysms of laughter. It was around about this time every year that a housewife's heart turns to jam. I was about 10 years old when I found this particular...
Steve, challenge.
Repetition of about. We had two abouts. About this time.
And they turned to jam, about to jam. Well, listen, Steve, you have a point. You have 35 seconds. Tell us something about jams starting now.
Raspberry seedless is the one that I prefer, so that it doesn't get stuck under your teeth. There's nothing worse than having to spit out those little...
Clement, Paul, challenge.
Being beheaded is much worse than having to stick out... He said there's nothing worse than having to seeds of jam.
And, well,
I've tried
I was going
both.
to say, there's nothing worse than spitting out bits of seed underneath, apart from being beheaded. But if you're going to come in with your winny-ninny, hang-onny ways...
No, Steve, what I'll do, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, because you were using the phrase colloquially. People often say there's nothing worse than...
You're saying there's nothing worse in life than not being able to spit out seeds.
I never said that.
No, he's right. Now you think about it, he's right. He's right.
No, I never said that.
Excellent
Paul,
chairman.
Yes.
Best one we've got.
I just said you do use that phrase colloquially sometimes, and we all knew what you meant. So I will give you the benefit of the doubt, though logically you're correct, Paul. But Steve's got it this time. 26 seconds, still with you, Steve, on jams, starting now.
I made some gooseberry jam last year, and I still got it in a jar on my kitchen shelf.
What's it say?
Well, deviation said kitchen self.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
It's from IKEA. It's got a silent H.
Let's give Steve a bonus point because they enjoyed his struggle to get out of it. Got a good laugh and reaction. Paul got a point for a correct challenge. He has jams, 19 seconds starting now.
One solution perhaps to ease the traffic on our roads. I read in the paper this morning they're going to start charging people by the mile, a special tax. There'll be satellite dishes installed up in the air and there'll be little chips inside our motors and a signal will be sent from one to the other and it will be able to tell the government just how many miles you've travelled in your...
Clement, challenge.
Miles.
You did repeat miles.
Did I?
Before. Yes, it did, yes. So, Clement, you've cleverly got in with half a second to go. It's not deliberate, he was just listening. Right, half a second on jams, starting now.
Jam.
Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's in third place. Paul's in the lead still, and Steve Frost follows him, and then Clement, and then Victor. And Steve, it's your turn to begin. The subject here is surfies. Tell us something about surfies in this game, starting now.
If you like to hang 10 or shoot the tube and blight barbecues on the beach all night, then you are a surfie, sitting there waxing your Malibu until you're told to move along. But
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Well,
yes.
you would if you'd seen the size of my Malibu.
Paul, 49 seconds, surfies starting now.
Surfies, I've got no idea what they are, so let's make something up.
Clement, challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
Doesn't know what they are.
You've only been playing this game for about 37 years, and you know, even if you don't know what it is, you still have to keep going, and providing you don't hesitate, repeat something, or deviate, you're all right. So, he just said he didn't know what it was, but he can still talk on the subject and not know.
I've got a lot to say.
Yes. And you have another point, and you have the subject still surface starting now.
Well, they're tiny scones, aren't they, made in Cornwall, about the size of a pinhead. You get 15 on your plate, and you look in vain for them. You have to do is stick them one on top of the other, and eventually it becomes a substantial meal. While I was cycling round Devon in the late 1940s with Adolf Hitler and Cary Grant... Have you not read the autobiography?
Yes, Clement, your challenge.
Deviation.
Deviation, yes, but just give it to me in case I may not agree always.
I might get the benefit of the doubt.
Yes. You think that Hitler and Cary Grant on bicycles in Devon was deviation?
I'm not saying we didn't keep it quiet.
All right, Clement, you have it. I was pulling your leg. 31 seconds, surface, starting now.
I have no idea what a surfie is, unless it is strawberry jam with pips which get under your teeth and make you really unhappy. And then everyone will get together and say, there's a surfie.
Victor, you challenged.
Repetition.
No, it was deviation.
deviation.
Yes. Victor Spinetti, you have the subject. You have 15 seconds. You have surfers starting now.
I once spoke to a surfer and said, what is the magic of it? And he said, standing on the crest of a wave for about a split second, you feel that you're actually holding the whole of eternity in your hands before you crash down into the sea. Time stands still.
Victor Spinetti was then speaking when the whistle went, so again that extra point. He's just behind Steve Frost and Clement Freud, who equal, both trailing Paul Merton as beginning. Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject, Swansea Jack. Tell us something about Swansea Jack while we're in this fine city, starting now.
Swansea Jack was a very loyal dog, and when his owner died, he vowed that he would stay by the graveside, which was a pity because he was buried at sea. But never mind, every morning he would swim out there, get about 30 miles off the coast, dive 100 feet down, and then come back up again and have his lunch in the Mumbles. This was a thing that happened day in every 24 hours, and tourists from all over the world came to see Swansea Jack. He'd be there first in a little bed and breakfast, wake up, look out the window, see the sea was ready for him, jump out there, cresting the waves beautifully, his bark echoing across the Mumbles down towards the Gower Peninsula, as the Japanese took photographs of him and said, what an incredibly loyal, beautiful dog this is, that he should go out there somewhere in the wreck where that sad ship went down all those years.
Clement, challenge.
He did say dog several times.
He did say dog several times. So you have the subject to Clement. 15 seconds, Swansea Jack starting now.
Swansea Jack is what the Prince of Wales used to be called before other names were given to him some considerable time after he had met Camilla Parker Bowles.
Paul challenge.
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
I was speaking through the laughter.
I must be fair, Paul. I think he was speaking through the laugh. So you'll have another point, Clement, and 2 seconds on Swansea Jack starting now.
When he met a genie in a sock.
So we've really moved into the world of the surreal on that round, and Paul did magnificently for 45 seconds and got nothing out of it. And Clement...
Showbiz.
I know, showbiz. Clement
I enjoyed it, so I did actually get quite a lot out of it.
Yeah. I know, because that's what it's about, this show.
Absolutely.
It's not about the points.
Or the money.
Well, it's just about coming to Swansea, to this lovely audience, and enjoying ourselves. Exactly, we have fun. Right, Clement, you're in second place, just behind Paul Merton, ahead of Victor Spinetti and Steve Frost, and it's also your turn to begin. And the subject is oysters. Tell us something about oysters in just a minute, starting now.
Oysters are bivalve mollusks, which also...
Paul challenge.
You should hear what they say about you.
Paul, we love the interruption. So you get a bonus point for that. Clement was interrupted, he gets a point. He has 56 seconds on oysters starting now.
Which are transsexual, unlike me, and are a tremendous aphrodisiac. There is one kind of oyster which is so turn-on that unless you swallow it quickly...
Full challenge.
Sorry, there is some kind of oyster which is so turn-on?
Yes.
That doesn't make the deviation.
Well, it made some sense to me, in the sense that, if you take it, it's a turn-on, and he was so turn-on. It was using it colloquially.
OK.
He has 44 seconds to continue on oysters, starting now.
That if you don't swallow it quickly, you get a stiff neck. But I'm not sure that the story about oysters being tremendous turning on animals' food isn't totally...
Hesitation.
Steve, challenge.
Hesitation, he's got a lump in his throat.
I think we should give Clement a bonus point for keeping going through the laughter, which he did create himself, so why shouldn't he keep going? I don't know. Anyway, he's got it. Steve, you had a correct challenge, which I believe, just confirmed, what was it?
Hesitation.
Yes, hesitation, yes. Tell us something about oysters, and you have 28 seconds starting now.
A little bit of Tabasco sauce, lemon juice, cut up.
Victor challenge.
Hesitation.
There was hesitation, Victor. So you've got oysters. You haven't got oysters, you've got the subject of oysters.
It's better than having crabs.
I know. And there are 24 seconds, Victor, starting now.
The most terrible experience of my life was eating a bad oyster. I was dreadfully ill for about at least 3 days. I couldn't move or go out or sleep or move. It was appalling.
Steve, challenge.
What did I say?
Move.
You moved twice.
Move.
Steve got in first. Oysters, 14 seconds to Steve, starting now.
Chop up a shallot. Oh, that's a stupid thing to say. What a stupid thing. I mean, make it easy for yourself, why don't you, Steve?
Right.
Chop up a shallot.
Right. So, Paul.
Well, deviation, you didn't say that's a stupid thing to say, and so he was off the subject of oysters.
That's right, and it was hesitation. Right. 11 seconds. Back with you on oysters, Paul, starting now.
If you're a deep-sea diver, you can find some satisfaction from pulling on all your equipment, going out very early in the morning and diving to where the oysters lie.
Clement, challenge.
They don't lie that low.
I didn't say I was a good swimmer.
You could put it on. You could be like Paul.
I'm not a good swimmer.
You could put it on and still go to a bed which was quite close to the shore, not even out of your depth.
That's
so
right.
logically,
We're not talking about beds, we're talking about oysters.
Oysters come from oyster beds. And I assume that's where he was going. He might have been going out far out to see if he could find an oyster far out in the deep, because occasionally they are
where they
out
crunch
there.
you out there.
You know, yes. So, logically, I don't think he was deviating within the rules of just a minute.
Benefit of the doubt?
So he has the benefit of the doubt. And so we've evened it out. 2 benefits, 1 to each of them. 2 seconds left for you, Paul. Oysters starting now.
The pearl is a wonderful ornament if you look...
So Paul, speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point. He's now in the lead just ahead of Clement Freud and then Steve Frost and Victor Spinetti in that order. And you do see how I have to explain all my decisions. Otherwise, they are so keen to get their points and succeed. But then keenness is part of the game.
Nick, can I just say one thing
You
about
can hear as many things as you like.
oysters and aphrodisiac?
Yes.
Not true. A few weeks ago, I had 12 oysters, and only 8 of them worked.
I'd give it another year yet if I were you.
I don't know, yes. Victor, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is a Welsh one here. It's Hoyle. Yes. So I'm sure you're more fitted than anyone else here to tell us something about Hoyle, and do it in 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Hoyle is not what posh people think Castrol sells. It is, in fact, a wonderful Welsh word which has many different meanings. For example, hoyle is the sound of passion or fervour, the joy of a Welsh preacher when he's denouncing sin. Erdawr y dir, e chynio'r achder, erdawr o bleddion, e chynioi. It's hoyle. And another kind of hoyle, of course, could be when you say pobble hoyle, which means good luck. And I'll tell you this, you need it on this show. And also Dylan Thomas, or some people call him Dylan, some people call him Dylan. But when he spoke, he had that hoyle in his voice, and death shall have no dominion. And I said once to Richard Burton, who was the perfect hoyle merchant, you only speak on the left side of your vocal cords. Why is that? He said, because...
So Victor Spinetti started with the subject of Hoyle and displaying incredible Hoyle.
But what he did say was, yes. I said, you only speak on the left side of your vocal cords, Richard. He said, that's right. I keep the right side for drinking.
And you were speaking as the whistle went. You get an extra point for that.
Wow.
And you get a bonus point because you weren't interrupted.
Wow.
Once or twice they were quite generous. But...
Thank you very much.
No, it was lovely hearing from you. I mean, have you gained your confidence? Will you ever come back again?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to now.
Yes. Right. So we've got another player of the game. So, Victor, you are equal with Steve Frost in third place. And Paul Merton's just at the head of Clement Freud. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is Sunday service. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Travelling from Paddington today on the train to Swansea, I noticed it takes 45 minutes longer than it does on every days of the week. I don't know why this should be the case, so I spoke to the guard and he said, well, you see, unfortunately, on a Sunday, we employ amateur drivers, so they really don't know the way. They have to spot every 10 miles a signpost that tells them exactly where they're going. Before last week, he said, we had a gentleman who was actually driving one of our trains here, and he took the passengers all the way to Clacklickle, which, of course, is a tiny little coastal resort just further down along the beach, past the Gower Peninsula. What a wonderful place that is. If you go there on a Sunday, there is a hotel which gives you a special service. They give you cream teas, clotted stuff, which, I don't know...
Victor, you challenged.
Give you.
That's right, give you special service and give you cream teas. Well, listen, Victor, my goodness me, you're sharp at the game now. 17 seconds, Sunday service with you, Victor, starting now.
Sunday service was never ever missed. In Combe, where I come from, it went to the chapel on Sunday, and there was this wonderful service that everybody flocked into, and then came out singing as the doors opened into the sunshine, "Guide me, oh, the great Jehovah." That was a Sunday service.
I must tell our listeners, the animation that Victor puts into it. He was almost out of his head. You could see the preacher there. And Victor, all those efforts have got you 2 points. You're still in third place, but a strong third place, just ahead of Steve Frost, behind Clement Freud, and he's behind our leader, Paul Merton. And Clement, your turn to begin. The subject is annoying habits. Tell us something about annoying habits in this game, starting now.
I think cutting your toenails during dinner at the Savoy Roll is one of the most annoying habits I've come across, but there are many others dealing with disgusting parts of the body, being cleansed in public, using all sorts of unsavoury and unpleasant devices to make it all better.
Paul challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. He was running out of steam, wasn't he? 36 seconds, Paul, with you on annoying habits, starting now.
I don't find it annoying to be cutting my toenails at dinner. I do it all the time. In fact, when I went round to St Clement's beautiful apartment, he showed me all the hospitality in the world by giving me a toe-clipping bowl, which I could place the offending items into. He said, let me join you. And before you knew where we were, we both had our legs up on the mantelpiece, snipping away. And what a wonderful sight that would have been.
Clement challenge.
We've had wonderful ones.
You had a wonderful.
Did we?
Yes, a wonderful thing, yes. Wonderful. And so there we are. 17 seconds. Annoying habits is back with you, Clement, starting now.
I'm not very keen on people who leave the bathroom door open.
Steve challenged.
People. We had people before. People who clip
their
people
toenails. Who clip their toenails.
Yes.
Not right at the beginning.
Different people.
Are the luckiest people.
It may have been different people, but you repeated the word people, so, Steve, you've got a correct challenge. Annoying habits is with you, starting now.
Frodo, because what he did was, came into the little building...
Paul challenged.
Habits, not hobbits.
Sorry.
9 seconds, Paul, on annoying habits, starting now.
Hecklers that go to comedy stores all around the world and start heckling people I find extremely annoying. There's a show I do with Mr. Steve Frost over there.
So, let me give the score as we move into the final round. Victor Spinetti and Steve Frost are equal in third place. They're a few points behind Clement Freud, and he's a number of points behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. And Victor, it's your turn to begin. So, on this final round, we're going to hear from you. And can you tell us something about this subject? What I take down to the beach. And you have 60 seconds starting now.
My idea of hell is to be on a beach in the sun, covered in suntan oil, soaking and burning up in that. I can't bear it. But if I had to go to the beach, if you were abroad, of course, you're all right. But in England, you have to take, or in Wales, you have to take windbreaks.
Clement challenge.
To have to takes.
You have to take.
Oh, my God. Quite right.
Quite right.
I give up.
But Victor, you can't go for 60 seconds in every round. So don't feel so disappointed.
Okay.
You've contributed so much. 42 seconds for a correct challenge to Clement Freud. What I take down to the beach, starting now.
What I take down to the beach is sand, because they very seldom have enough of it. We have shingle, stones, octopus droppings, all sorts of really nasty, unpleasant things which are hard on your feet, cut your toes, and cause you to call...
Paul challenged.
How do you know it's octopus droppings?
How do you know it's not?
How do you know it's not?
Well, it's difficult for them to get up onto the beach, isn't it?
For someone who goes into the realm of the surreal when you're talking about subject, I don't think you can have Clement for doing something similar there.
Well, I just wondered if there was 8 in a line or something. Like, how would you go octopus droppings?
Well, as an
octopus myself, is that what you're going to say? have you ever had a dropping on the beach, Nicholas?
I've never seen an octopus dropping, no. I've never trodden on one either.
No.
But Clement Freud is a trained chef and restaurateur, so he probably knows what they're dropping.
He doesn't serve up octopus droppings, does he? Is that a rare delicacy if he can't get the caviar? Give him that.
Right. But when he was preparing
Tell him it's the same sort of stuff, but a bit crunchier.
He probably saw what dropped out of them when he was cutting up the octopus for... Anyway, it's a benefit of the doubt situation. And you've had it before, yes. Clement's got it this time. 22 seconds. What do I take down to the beach, Clement, starting now?
Tastes rather like shepherd's pie. Sort of crumbly, crunchy, and quite pleasantly brown, often found on the beach.
Victor, you challenged.
That was deviation.
Yes, of course it was. The subject is what I take down to the beach. He was now talking about octopus droppings.
Exactly.
And how crunchy they were when he cooked them.
Exactly. Yes. Nothing to do with what you take down to the beach.
That's right. And so you have 12 seconds to tell us what I take down to the beach, starting now.
If you go down to the beach with a family, then you have to take lots of things, because Gran will want a windbreak and...
Steve challenged.
He said windbreak before. When he
yes, you did have a windbreak when you first started talking.
That was ages ago.
It's still in this round.
It's still in this round. Okay, right. Thank you.
Not at all, no. So Steve's got in with 4 seconds ago on what I take down to the beach.
Another sleepless night.
No. What I take down to the beach, Steve, starting now.
What I take down to the beach is a great big bucket and a very small spade to make...
As I said earlier, this was to be the last round, and let me give you the final score at the end of that situation. Victor Spinetti and Steve Frost, with quite a lot of points. A lot of points have been scored in this particular edition of Just a Minute, have finished equal in third place, just 4 or 5 points behind Clement Freud, and he is 4 or 5 points behind Paul Merton. So in that sequence we say well done to all of them, but a special strong round to Paul Merton, who came out at the top. Congratulations. So, it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game: Paul Merton, Victor Spinetti, Steve Frost and Clement Freud. I also thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with great style. And also, we thank our producer-director, that is Claire Jones, who comes from the Mumbles, by the way. And also, we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we are deeply indebted to this lovely audience here in the Grand Theatre in Swansea, who have enjoyed the show but cheered us magnificently and given us a show to remember. We hope you have had one as well, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Until then, from all of us, goodbye! Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, those who tune into Radio 4, Radio 7, the World Service, the Internet, anywhere you receive us. You are so welcome, and we love playing to you. And also a huge pleasure to welcome 4 exciting, attractive, I'd like to say even glamorous, but anyway, skilled players of the game, who once more have come together just for your pleasure and benefit to show their verbal dexterity and demonstrate their humorous ingenuity as they speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 exciting people are Paul Merton and Clement Freud on my right, and Julian, Clary and Liza Tarbuck on my left. Please welcome all 4 of them. Yes, it's Claire Bartlett who's going to help me with the score, and she's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Drill Hall, and it's one of the hottest nights of the year. But our steaming audience here have braved the weather to come in and cheer us on our way as we start the show with Clement Freud. Clement, loose talk. That is the subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
I'm not very knowledgeable about technical matters, but I think talk is the force that does something to vibration, and I'm not at all sure whether a loose talk is more vibratory than a tight talk. Talking is also something which happens when you open your mouth and words come out. And many times have I heard people say, he is one of the loosest talkers I've heard. You're looking at me.
Julie Clary, you challenged.
Well, the actual final challenge was hesitation, but
Yes.
It was all a bit worrying before that anyway.
I know. Yes, we were all four looking at him in amazement. We were trying to decipher what he was talking about, but he did hesitate, yes, Julian. So you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 28 seconds available. Loose talk starting now.
Loose talk is really equated with dangerous talk in my mind. Just supposing Winston Churchill had gone down the pub on the Friday before D-Day and said, I'm going to fight them on the beaches in a couple of days' time.
A Paul Merton challenge.
He wasn't from Leeds. I'm going to fight them on the beaches. What's all this? Winston Churchill, he never spoke like that. He didn't speak like that, Nicholas.
I don't think he was a great impression.
He was incognito.
Was he?
He might have gone down and tried to fraternise and make himself
Winston
more available.
Churchill goes down the pub on a Friday night and speaks in a northern accent.
Yeah. It's a bizarre thought, him going on a pub on a Friday night, so it's equally bizarre to think he put on a northern accent to want to fraternise with the people and make him think he was one of them. So I accept the fact that it's possible he could have done such a thing, if you accept the premise that he did go down to the pub on a Friday night just before D-Day. So having accepted your premise, Julian, the audience agree with me. You have a point for an incorrect challenge. You have 16 seconds still. Loose talk starting now.
My point is simple, if you can manage to grasp it. Loose talk can be very dangerous indeed. The outcome of the war could have been radically affected. I said to Lisa before we started this recording, have you seen that geezer in leather trousers who's just walked through? Fancy wearing those kind of clothes.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Julian Clary. In fact, he's the only one to get any points in that round. And so he's in a solo lead ahead of the other three. Lisa Tarbuck, will you take the next round?
Certainly.
Lisa, the subject is organic food. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Much has been said regarding organic food, but the fact remains that food grown without chemical interference has got to be better for you. Sweeter tomatoes, for one thing, they invoke a calm feeling on your insides. GM Crops v Organic, I know who the winner is. Last year, I put 15 bags of pig manure in my back garden, spread it lovingly around, much to the amusement of the neighbours, and my courgettes ran and trotted across the garden in the sweetest and...
Clement challenge.
We have different garden.
Yes, you
I
talked
did
about
say
garden.
that
Yes,
twice.
you did say
Thank-
that
well-
about
well
garden, yes.
seen.
I love the idea of... Your neighbours must have loved you when all that pig manure went down, didn't they? 22 seconds are available still, Clement. You have a correct challenge, a point, and organic food starting now.
I'm not too sure about organic food because I can't taste one from the other. Frequently, people have given me Brussels sprouts or beans or cabbages and said, which of this sample do you think is organic and which not? I've said which 3 times.
Julian challenge.
2 witches.
2 witches, which is and which is not. So, Julian, you're in there with 7 seconds only on organic food starting now.
Prince Charles likes organic food, and from the look of him, it hasn't done him much good. I don't like grubby looking.
Paul, you've challenged.
2 hymns quite quickly.
And 2 hymns
Look at
quite
him, hasn't
quickly,
done him
yes.
much good.
Pity, because you got a good laugh, didn't you? Right. So, and you, Paul, got in with only 1 second to go on organic food starting now.
Butternut squash.
So Paul Merton got the point for speaking as the whistle went. He's in second place behind Julian Clary. And Julian, it's your turn to begin. The subject, something close to your heart, I'm sure, walking the dog. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I walk the dog twice a day, generally speaking, in Regent's Park. I go mincing clockwise in the morning and anti in that direction of an afternoon. Valerie is my walking companion, and she meets all her chums there. There's a Jack Russell called Frank, and a pug called Maureen, a Labrador, and we don't know her name. She's not particularly friendly, and we don't like the look in her eye. We're too highly bred, but I'm very meticulous about clearing up the mess. I take a selection of plastic bags, and as soon as she's finished, before it's even cooled off, I scoop it off the grass, because I'm very public-minded. Nowadays, they put special bins with little flaps, and you can eat...
Paul challenged.
How's a dog expected to use one of these bins?
No, I think we did realise it was the dog's stuff that Julian had picked up that went in the bin, and not Julian and not the dog who's in the bin. And 16 seconds are available, Julian, on walking the dog, starting now.
I have a personal assistant who follows a few yards behind, and if it's a particularly messy offering from my daughter, as I like to call her, it's not really a blood relation, but you know what I'm saying, then she will do the honours. She goes home and washes her hands.
Paul challenge.
3 she's.
Yes, there were 3 she's there,
Three
yes.
she's and 3 hymns.
Yes. And you've got him with half a second to go, Paul. You're getting clever at this, aren't you?
I must be a severe disappointment to you.
No, they were just enjoying it, and they felt justice wasn't done, because Julian talked on the subject from the beginning to the end. And you got him with half a second to go. He'll get no points at all, and you'll get one for speaking as a whistle went. But that is the irony of just a minute. So, Paul, half a second, walking the dog, starting now.
Walking the...
Oh, Clement, you challenge.
Hesitation.
No. Give Clement a bonus point because they enjoyed what he did. And Paul's still got a quarter of a second on walking the dog, starting now.
Go to the park!
Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is drilling. Can you tell us something about drilling in just a minute, starting now?
This was something that goes on in the army. If I'd been old enough, I'd have been in national service. I suppose that stopped about 1962, I believe. And I would have been expected to march up and down on the parade ground while some sergeant major bellowed out orders. I was expected to follow these.
Julian challenge.
Wasn't he expected twice?
Yes, you expected twice.
I?
Yes, you did expect twice. And 46 seconds back with you, Julian. Drilling, starting now.
Drilling is an activity that men wearing no shirts do in roads to pass the time. I happen to live in the most drilled road in London, and that's no mistake, I can tell you. Why do you think I bought the house in the first place? They drill away and they fix pipes and things, and occasionally there's an explosion, and the road floods, and then there's more men with no shirts at all.
Clement challenge.
A lack of shirts.
Shirts and men,
And
yes.
men, I
right,
believe.
and men. But there can't be too many men in Julian's life, I suppose. 22 seconds on drilling with you, Clement, starting now.
It's what dentists used to do all the time. Open your mouth, put out your tongue, and they drill.
Julian challenge.
They don't drill your tongue.
No. Julian, no dentist asks you to put out your tongue.
Mine does.
I would leave...
Clements does.
I would leave him immediately if I were you. Your tongue, really? You can't get your teeth, your tongue's out anyway. No, it's only on the bottom set. I agree with your challenge, Julian. Drilling's back with you, 15 seconds starting now.
There was one occasion where there was drilling in the area in which I live, and I went to the foreman and I said, look, how much longer is this going to go on? He said, we'll finish Friday, but we start again on Monday at the other end. I said, this is ridiculous. Drilling, constantly.
Liza
That was me. It was a complete error of drilling, wasn't it? Because that, in fact, is the
That's
title.
on the card, yes. If
I'm
he'd done 2 more, I might have given it to you, but no, it is on the card. 1 second left with you, Julian. Drilling starting now.
The asphalt was...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Julian Clary. Liza Tarbuck, will you take the next round?
Certainly.
And it's coincidence. Lisa, tell us something about that in this game starting now.
I don't believe in coincidences, as I think everything happens for a reason. After an alleged...
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, Julian, yes.
Tongue.
Coincidences with you, and there are 55 seconds starting now.
By sheer coincidence, my friend Hector and I once turned up at the same nightclub, and would you believe we both went home with the same man? That's where the coincidences stopped. But it is uncanny the way nature seems to dole out these extraordinary...
Lisa challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes. Hesitation, Lisa, yes. Coincidence is back with you. 39 seconds available starting now. Paul, the challenge.
Well, sort of major hesitation, really.
Major or minor, it was a hesitation. 37 seconds, Paul. Coincidence starting now.
When coincidences happen, they can be quite charming, and sometimes they make you think that life is more than just what we perceive on this earth. Clement is looking at me now with love in his eyes, and who can blame him? Because me and...
Julian challenge.
Well, that's irrelevant, really. It's a deviation if Clement's looking at him.
Personal.
No coincidence.
Well, I don't know. There could be a coincidence. No, I think, Paul, you have the benefit of the doubt on this occasion. And you have 24 seconds on coincidence starting now.
They are amazing things, and they make you believe that perhaps there is an existence beyond what we can see here. For example, I once had the most amazing coincidence where I went to a nightclub and I was picked up both by Julian and his friend Hector. Extraordinary evening it was. The three of us went back to his place and played Scrabble in the nude and drank Horlicks until dawn. She was the cleaner. She turned up at 4:30 and chucked us out. But I still remember those nights.
So Paul Merton speaking as the Whistlewen gained that extra point, and he's moved forward. He's only one behind our leader, Julian Clary, and they're both a few points ahead of Clement Freud and Lisa Tarbuck. And Julian, your turn to begin. The subject now, Julius Caesar. You brought a lot of history in this show, and last time you were here. Tell us something about this amazing man in 60 seconds, if you can, starting now.
Julius Caesar was known for having thighs like tree trunks, and everyone in the Roman Empire said, "Oh, you're gorgeous, Julius Caesar. We'd like you to be our leader." And he wasn't that keen, but in the end he crumbled, and he approached the throne, he sat upon it, and, you know, he rather liked the feeling. He started to wave at his public, and he said, "Cut his head off over there. He's looking at me in a funny way." And that's how he carried on, really. He was a very primitive sort, but he had very interesting bone structure, which people admired far and wide. He conquered all of Europe, mainly with his cheekbones. He had a few tattoos.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of cheekbones.
Yes, his cheekbones, yes.
Did I say it twice?
Yes, you did.
Well, there's one on each side.
I know. No, you mentioned his cheekbones, and Maynard loved his cheekbones, and he conquered with his cheekbones. And I've given deviation for conquering with his cheekbones, actually. Julius Caesar's with you, Paul. 18 seconds available, starting now.
The salad was created specifically to commemorate his coming to Britain in the year 55 BC. And what an extraordinary event it was. He was greeted at the shore by the fellow Britons that had been standing by, and they looked at him and they said, "You will be our great leader. We will rock you."
Julian challenge. Julian challenge.
The two leaders.
Yes, you will be our leader. And two leaders. There were two leaders, weren't there?
I think so.
Yeah, I only said leader once.
Oh, did you? Right, okay.
I said leader.
He said leader before, and you only said it once.
Yeah.
So it's an incorrect challenge, and you have 3 seconds on Julius Caesar. Paul, starting now.
As leaders go, you must... Leaders?
Leaders and leader before. So Clement, an incorrect challenge. 2 seconds with you, Paul. Another point, of course. Julius Caesar, starting now.
Et tu, Brute, he cried as a knife plunged.
So, with other points in the round and one for speakers of Whistlewen, Paul Merton has leapt ahead and just gone ahead of Julian Clary and Clement Freud and Lisa in that order. And Paul, it's back with you to start, and the subject is the art of listening Tell us something about that in this game starting now.
I think the art of interviewing is about the art of listening. If you ask a question based on the previous answer, there is a flow towards the discourse that goes on between two people. The art of listening sometimes is just to have a very patient look on your face and go, yes, every 5 seconds, just to indicate that you are following this narrative, and people will come...
Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition of people.
Yes. You did repeat people before. Clement, you've got a correct challenge. You have 37
Popular
seconds.
challenge, wasn't it?
The art of listening is with you, starting now.
The art of listening gets you very few points in just a minute. I just listened to Paul Merton talking about Julius Caesar, who was very keen on soothsayers, and it reminded me of a constituency garden fete.
Julian challenge.
A deviation.
Why?
Well, he's not talking about the art of listening.
Well, I think he was conveying the soothsayers. You have to listen to soothsayers.
I thought he was talking about Julius Caesar using the thoughts he'd had for the previous round in this round.
But I was listening.
But he was listening. And no, I think... he conveyed to me that he brought him back to Julius Caesar, soothsayers. You listen to soothsayers because they have something important to tell you. So you have to have the ability to listen. I'm with you on this one, Clement. So you have 24 seconds on the art of listening starting now.
The art of listening is practiced by fortune tellers. I had one at a garden party in my constituency. I said this before, but...
and Paul challenged.
He said this before.
I know he did.
It was after I was challenged.
I don't think so. I think
it was.
Was it really?
Can I just tell you about this fortune
go on,
teller? She sent a letter saying, due to unforeseen circumstances, I will not be able to attend your garden party.
Give Clement Freud a point because they enjoyed what he said. Paul gets a point because he got a correct challenge, and he takes over the subject with 8 seconds, the art of listening starting now.
The art of listening is to be concentrating fully on the person that you are talking to and listening to what they're saying.
So Paul Merton increases lead. He's just ahead of Julian Clary, and then Clement Freud's catching up on Julian. He's in 1 point behind. Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the GNU. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
A GNU is the singular of GNUs. And I listen to the 6 o'clock and the one at 8 and 9. I'm very keen on Trevor MacDonald, who is in fact a knight, and prefer him to many other GNU's readers. The GNU is also an animal. I forget exactly where it comes from in Africa, but it comes...
Liza, you challenge.
Comes.
Yes, there were 2 comes there. And so you have 34 seconds. Tell us something about the GNU starting now.
It's also known as a wildebeest, or it's a sort of antelope, ox-like head with a tufty tail. It is found in Africa, yes, and it doesn't rhyme with anything, but it's great for Scrabble, unless you're saving your GNN for the I that might come and increase your score later. The GNU likes nothing better than to dress up in ladies' skirts with veils on the top and possibly a floral garland to hide its bosom, strolling liberally this way and that, searching for small grubs to none. I was nearly there.
They loved it. Paul.
Repetition of none.
Yes. Absolutely. And you have 4 seconds only to tell us something. But it is the game, you know. Paul, 4 seconds. The GNU starting now.
Flanders and Swan had a huge hit with their song about the GNU, which they first made in 1963.
So Paul increases lead, extra points because the whistle went, and then it's Julian Clary, Clement Freud and Liza Tarbuck in that order. And Liza, your turn to begin. The subject, fishing. I don't know whether you are a fisherwoman or whether you're interested in that sport, but talk about it. 60 seconds starting now.
There is nothing I like better than getting up at 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, grabbing a big box of lugworms and going down to a gravel pit to look in vain for a £35 tench, which, if you do catch it, is full of slime, so you have to put them back and stick things down the throat to get these little silver things that you've put your bait on out of their gobs and move on to the next fish, which could in fact be a pike. It could be a
Julian challenged.
2 coulds.
Yes,
Yeah.
could be, yes, right.
Make a right.
Julian is, and I was squirming then with all the disgusting things you were doing. 33 seconds, Julian, on fishing, starting now.
I once sat on a riverbank and pulled out an 8-pounder, much to the delight of my fellow fishermen. I threw it back in from whence it came, and then I got bored because that's what people don't know about fishing. You know, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than ever do it again. I sat there with my rod in my hand from morning till night, and I just glazed over in the fullness of time. You're not allowed to read a book or anything in case your line starts to twitch. Sea fishing, on the other hand, is a much more exciting.
So Julian Clary is speaking as the whistle when gained the extra point. He's catching up on our leader, Paul Merton. He's ahead of Clement Freud and Liza. And Julian, it's also your turn to begin. The subject is fate. Tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
It's Prince William's fate to become king in the fullness of time. But just supposing he didn't accept his fate and he wanted to become a male stripper, for example. What would the nation do? This poor boy, since the day he's been born, has been told that this is his fate. I wouldn't accept it if I were him. I would say, I'm going to break out on my own and do my own thing. And if he gave all his money away...
Paul challenged.
Repetition of own.
Yes, that's true. Well done, Paul. And you got in with 25 seconds on fate starting now.
Of course, it is the fate of us all to be here at the end of just a minute to hear the final scores read out by the urbane Nicholas Parsons. That means he lives in the town. What a wonderful man he is. It is indeed our collected fate to be here when those points are announced.
Julian challenged.
Had 2 hears.
There were 2 hears. It's our fate to be here, and
Yes.
at the end, right. And Julian, you got back in with 7 seconds on fate starting now.
It's Prince Harry's fate.
Paul challenged.
Repetition of Prince.
Prince, you had Prince before, Prince Charles, Prince Andrew, and Prince Harry. Right, 5 seconds, Paul, on fate starting now.
I went to the chiropodist the other day because I was having this most incredible difficulty trying to get my shoes on.
Right. So Paul Merton has increased his lead at the end of that round, an extra point, speaking as a whistle went. Let me give you the final situation as we move into the final round. Liza Tarbuck at the moment is trailing just a little in 4th place, but she gives great value. Clement Freud is in 2nd place behind Julian Clary, and he's a few points behind our leader, who is still Paul Merton, and Clement is challenged. You challenged,
Yes. Could I be in 3rd place if there are 2 people in front of me?
Right, you're in 3rd place with 2 people in front of you, yes, that's right. Paul, would you take the last round? It is, the subject is mug. Tell us something about mug in this game starting now.
Mug can be a colloquialism for face. If we didn't have faces, how would we recognise each other? We'd wander around and there'd be a bit of flesh just in front of our heads and we wouldn't be able to see whether it was somebody that we had known before or perhaps a completely different individual. Mug is also something you can do when you rob people. Physical violence in the street. You go up to them and say, I want your wallet, trousers and everything else in between. They hand this over to you and you have in fact mugged them. Another...
Clement challenged.
What happens if you have your wallet in your trousers?
Well, if you've got the trousers, they've got the wallet as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was the reason to get the trousers, to get the wallet.
And everything in between them.
Yeah.
That's what I was worrying about.
Well, if you're worried about it, I don't think it makes much difference to the show. Paul has 33 seconds on mug starting now.
Also, it's a vessel for drinking liquid out of. You can go down to the pub and say, I want my favourite mug hanging over the bar. And when you ask the barman, he will pour beer into this mug and you will knock it back and you will be able to say that is my personalised mug. And people...
Lisa challenged.
I do challenge, because I'd have thought that it should be stated that mug was an old word, because if you went and did that now, they wouldn't put it in a mug, would they?
Well, they do come next way. The mug is a tankard, really, isn't it?
But then you'd say tankard.
I know, but some people might refer to it
I don't
as
actually want the subject. However...
I'll tell you what we'll do. Paul's got a commanding lead,
Yes.
and there are 17 seconds to go. I'm sure you don't mind if Lisa finishes, right? So, you see? Paul's always very generous in this game. And we'd love to hear from you on Mug, Lisa, with 17 seconds starting now.
Right now, I feel...
Paul Chalice.
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
No hesitation at all. You've got another point, Lisa. And you've got 16 seconds starting now.
On my forehead is one word. It is mug. I jumped into...
Paul Chalice.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. No, let her... I think she was intimidated, so 10 seconds on Mug, Lisa, starting now.
My favourite mug at home is a wide-brimmed one that I like to have coffee in. On the side it says love. This I can sip out of with... Oh, I'm talking rubbish. I'm really
Lisa's rubbish kept her going to the whistle when gained that extra point. And to give you the final score, she now therefore finished up with those points she got with my help in a very respectful fourth place. No, it was a very strong fourth place, very strong fourth place. And she was just 2 points behind Clement Freud, who was in a very, very commanding third place. And he was 3 or 4 points behind Julian, who was in an excellent second place. But out in the lead with really far more points than has ever been scored in one round, in one session, I should say, of just a minute, was Paul Merton. So, Paul, once again, you are the winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian, Clary, Lisa Tarbuck and Clement Freud. I thank Claire Bartlett, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with such delicacy. Also, we thank our producer, Claire Jones. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the drill hall. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.